the special effects scientist of the world of American comics. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 51, God Takes Action. I have answered your questions for you. Can you please answer my questions now? The giant beast said gently again, but his tone already made people feel a little impatient. Although the chances of learning the secrets of the universe from such a super level existence are rare, Gao Li also knows that he can't just pull the giant beast, so he can only force himself to restrain his curiosity. Then I will continue. Gao Li sorted out his thoughts. Since you know the complete night magic system, you should know what a phantom is. The birth of a phantom comes from the deepest despair, but you can see that I don't have that kind of despair at all, right? Because the birth of a magician comes from the opposite, hope, and with the help of hope, he transcends despair and obtains the power of magic. In order to better explain, Gao Li also released the diamond Yinglang from his body. As soon as Yinglang came out, he saw the giant beast's big eyes staring at him, and almost his wings went limp. Just now, he and Gao Li were just resisting the giant beast's attack outside, and now they are directly in contact with the giant beast at zero distance. It's really scary. How did Gao Li, that kid, provoke such a terrifying existence? Question mark? Ahem. In short, the phantom demon is like the representative of despair, and the magician is like the representative of hope. We are opposites to each other, but we also rely on each other, and can even become one. Gao Li felt that Yinglang's performance was a bit embarrassing, so he coughed and took Yinglang back, and continued to explain to the giant beast. Therefore, I guess you have a similar connection with God. Although it should be different from night magic, there is a great probability that you are positioned as a phantom similar to God. The giant beast fell into deep thought and asked after a while, then how can I verify this? Gao Li shrugged and said, it's very simple, we can try to reverse it. As the ultimate darkness, theoretically there should be no light power, right? The giant beast said, that's right, otherwise the darkness would not be pure. Okay, Gao Li nodded. Although it is not clear what God has done and what methods he used, we can verify it in our own way. Since you understand everything about night magic, you naturally understand the principles of phantoms, so you only need to use your own dark power to create a phantom of your own. If my previous inference is correct, then the phantom that is opposite to you will inevitably become the power of light that you should not have, even the power of God. In this way, the verification can be completed. The darkness without any light created the light without any darkness. The giant beast immediately understood the idea. I understand. I'll give it a try. The giant beast said slowly, showing a serious and solemn mood for the first time. The next moment, a deep and dark black ball began to condense in front of the giant beast. Just by looking at it, Gao Li felt as if his sight was physically pulled. This black ball, like an abyss, is even more terrifying than a black hole. Time, space, light cannot escape its influence. It is the most fundamental power of the giant beast. This is my most core fundamental power. Only in this way can it fully represent me. Now it depends on whether me can create something out of nothing and transform it into the power of God. Even the giant beast, who always seemed to be neither happy nor sad, felt a mood called tension for the first time, staring closely at the dark power that was controlled by illusion magic. Gao Li also held his breath. Under the joint gaze of the two, the dark ball changed. It was different from what Gao Li imagined, such as darkness breaking out of its shell and blooming into light. It was more like representing the light born from darkness, and the reality was closer to Gao Li's inference. The ball of darkness was transformed into a ball of holy light in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the extremely rich power of God filled the entire venue, exuding an extremely sacred and solemn atmosphere, making people want to kneel down and worship. If any archangel was present, they would be surprised to find that this power of God was even purer than that in their bodies. It was as if it was the purest power given by God himself. Is that so? Gao Li almost forgot to breathe, feeling that he might have touched upon a shocking secret in a multiverse. Seeing that the ball of light composed of the power of God began to deform and change towards a fixed outline, a sudden change occurred. Boom. The whole hell began to shake violently, and a towering hand suddenly stretched down from the top of heaven. How is it possible? The angels were all shocked and knelt on the ground in great respect. The giant beast and Gao Li also looked up at the giant hand that was stretched out towards them, and they all understood. The target of the big hand is here. Is it coming for the giant beast? Or is it coming for me? Is it coming for this new phantom demon? Gao Li's mind raced. If the target was him, or the giant beast, why didn't it come earlier or later, but at this time? So that's it. I understand everything. At this moment, the giant beast suddenly said calmly. Time slowed down at this moment, allowing the giant beast to have time to talk to Gao Li. Lord of the Endless, your idea is correct. Just like the example of the phantom demon and the magician you mentioned, light and darkness are one and the same. They are mutually opposed, and yet they are also indispensable to each other. Therefore, coexistence is the highest rule. The giant beast looked at the giant hand emitting the power of light, and stretched out his hand. Thank you for teaching me this truth. As the giant beast moved, the hell outside shook and the earth trembled. A giant hand that was no less in size than the towering hand rose from the ground. Two huge hands that seemed to be able to hold the stars. One was pitch black and deep, rising from hell, and the other was pure white and sacred, descending from heaven. What on earth happened? Is the world going to be destroyed? People who didn't know the truth were panicking. The series of changes were too unexpected. Soon, under the common witness of everything, the upper and lower palms finally touched. There was no earth-shaking explosion, only a simple handshake. Gao Li looked at this century-long handshake steadily, and a scene suddenly flashed through his mind. Nokia startup screen. Just when I thought of this, an invisible impact came from the giant hand of the sky, flowing into the body of the giant beast along its arm. With a bang, the holy light phantom demon, which had not yet fully formed, was affected by something, and exploded into a simple energy ball on the spot. Gao Li was stunned, and felt a little pity in his heart. Compared with the phantom demons born of despair, and therefore evil by nature, I really want to see what the phantom demons born from light look like. Lord of the Endless, I will soon return to the lightless sea to sleep. The giant beast did not react to this, but his voice was obviously more peaceful and gentle. Before that, I hope to give you a thank you gift to express my gratitude. P.S. Thanks to Winter Little White Shoes for the 2000 point reward. Chapter 52. If we talk about despicable things, it's you guys. Or thank you gift? Gao Li was surprised and delighted. A thank you gift from a supreme being like the giant beast. What kind of good thing would that be? Exclamation mark. However, Gao Li did not show it too bluntly, but politely expressed his concern. Okay, are you okay? Why do you suddenly want to sleep? The giant beast said. I have no problem. I feel great. It's just that I was awakened by accident. I should have been sleeping in the lightless sea. The lightless sea is the lowest level of hell. The giant beast had been sleeping there before. It was considered his exclusive bedroom. Especially now that I understand that there must be a balance between light and darkness, and God will soon leave this universe. If I don't sleep, the proportion of darkness will crush the light. Gao Li heard another shocking secret. God is leaving? Wait, can God leave the universe at will? So, you are related to God. Then why is the ghost who represents God's wrath so useless in front of you? The giant beast explained. Because the ghost's power also comes from God's gift. He is the spirit of revenge and the agent of God's wrath. Therefore, the strength of the ghost depends on what God wants him to do, and he will give him the corresponding power. The ghost at this time is not in his prime. Gao Li understood it. It turns out that the ghost is just a high-level worker. The upper and lower limits of its strength are like the vice admirals or the 7 warlords in One Piece. The strong ones can be as strong as the admirals and the 4 emperors, and the weak ones can be killed by supernovas. Then he heard the giant beast say, this ball of original power is the only time I have used my full strength since I woke up. I have just erased all the power marks on it, so I will give it to you. It is now yours. Gao Li's ecstasy was stuck in the middle, before he could show it on his face, feeling neither up nor down. What's the use of giving me a ball of energy? It sounds very advanced, but if you think about it carefully, he has no use for it for the time being. What Gao Li didn't know was that this ball of original power that had been reversed into the attribute of light was already the purest original power of God in the universe when God's body left. And there was no other. Even if he went to heaven to ask for God's power now, and even if the angels drained Silver City and himself, it would be impossible to find a power closer to God than this. Then how should I carry it? Gao Li asked sullenly. The giant beast said, you just need to put your own mark on this ball of original power. Aren't you also a master of magic power? As long as you put your power mark, you will be the master of this ball of God's power, and you can store and take it out of your body at will. After connecting to the Sea of Laws before, Gao Li did learn how to use the power mark without a teacher, which was equivalent to the companion skill of the master of magic power. Gao Li used his endless magic power to stamp this ball of energy, and it really became as easy as a finger, and could be easily stuffed into the body. Then I'll go back to the lightless sea and sleep. The voice of the giant beast became softer and softer, and Gao Li suddenly thought of something. Hey wait, can you give me another gift? The giant beast asked in a daze. What other gift do you want? Gao Li said a little embarrassedly. It was only when I put the power of the origin into my body, just now, that I suddenly remembered that I actually have a problem that has not been solved. You also know that I came from outside the Wanshan instrument, but when I want to leave Wanshan instrument and go back, only my soul can go. Do you have any way to let my soul carry magic power? The phantom demon originally resides in the spiritual world. In theory, Gao Li can study how to bring it over through the connection between the spiritual world and the soul. However, that is an ordinary night magician, and Gao Li is obviously not ordinary. Since he has no magic power in his body, he should not be able to form a magic cycle with the phantom demon. So Gao Li took a trick to let the phantom demon integrate with his magic power, so as to achieve the purpose of obtaining magic power without circulation. Gao Li was undoubtedly successful, and he took this opportunity to enter a higher level of magician evolution and obtained the power of the final form endless style. But this also means that the phantom has been integrated with Gao Li Wayne's body and can no longer be stuffed into the spiritual world and packed away. Moreover, even if it is successfully brought back to the Marvel world, since Gao Li Parker's body has not been integrated with the magic of the phantom, he still cannot use magic. Let me think. The giant beast said in a muffled voice. He was almost omniscient and omnipotent. The moment this thought came up, he knew the most appropriate method. I created a secret technique on the spot that can directly infuse magic into the soul. But the soul is not suitable for carrying magic, and everyone's tolerance is different. The giant beast said this truthfully. The most suitable place to store power such as magic or divine power is the body, or an instrument made of special metals. The gods of the Order Pantheon are all in the form of artifacts, because their bodies cannot bear the pressure of divine power, and their own souls cannot store much divine power, so they can only create artifacts to contain their souls and divine power. In an instant, Gori felt that his mind had a lot of secret knowledge and a lot of experience and skills, as if he had practiced this method for hundreds of years. Oh my god. Is it an initiation? Exclamation mark. And he even created experience and skills out of thin air. Before Gori could finish his exclamation, the scene in front of him changed, and only the last words of the giant beast remained in his ears. Thank you again, Lord of the Endless. Then, good night. As if it was a declaration, the sound waves rolled across the whole place, and the giant beast began to sink towards the lightless sea. Gori came out with Etrigan, the god king of Naboo, and the ghost who had been swallowed before, and they were also unharmed. It's just that the way they came out was different from that of Gori. Gori was directly transferred to the outer space by the giant beast, while the other three were spit out by the giant beast. Anyone who is not blind can see this difference in treatment, of course, including the three people who were used as saliva by the giant beast before going to bed. Damn, what happened after I was sucked in? Why did the giant beast go back inexplicably? Why was that guy released well, but I was spit out? Ghost, Naboo and Etrigan were all quite confused, especially Ghost, who was embarrassed. He snorted coldly and fell asleep pretending to be dead, leaving the embarrassing scene to Alan, who was at a loss. Nabu, who was also embarrassed, followed suit and suddenly switched back to Dr. Kent of Fate, which amazed the demon Etrigan on the side. Just like that, you left the mess to your host. If you want to talk about detritus, you have to be the ones. PS. Thank you Rookie Shizen for the 300 points reward. Chapter 53. I want to go back to Marvel. At this time, all the people and gods who were concerned about this matter finally reacted belatedly. The crisis of the giant beast seemed to have ended so suddenly. Although I didn't know what happened and was confused the whole time, it must have a lot to do with the Lord of the Endless. After all, didn't you hear the last words of the giant beast before it left, thanking the Lord of the Endless? Moreover, from the fact that he treated the Lord of the Endless with great courtesy and ignored the other big guys, it was enough to see that the giant beast was grateful to the Lord of the Endless. The Lord of the Endless. It was the Lord of the Endless who saved the entire universe. Long live the Lord of the Endless. Long live the Lord of the Endless. The Lord of the Endless is so powerful. Blessing. Gradually, those creatures who were still immersed in panic and despair in the past began to cheer for their survival. After the giant beast disappeared, the only focus of the audience was on Gao Li. This made Gao Li feel bad. Now, due to the confrontation with the giant beast, his magic power was almost gone, and he was in the weakest state. If someone suddenly jumped out and attacked him at this time, Gao Li would most likely be killed. Zyro quickly ask your dad to summon me. Gao Li used telepathy to urgently call Zatanna and use the last of his magic power to transform into the metal style of Kamen Rider wizard that no one had ever seen. Dad, come and help me. Zatanna on Earth hurriedly took Guani away, not only pulling him to a deserted place, but also setting up an opaque soundproof barrier. Zyro, what's wrong with you? Guani asked in confusion. I just experienced a magic riot, and my body is still very tired. Dad, can you help me summon someone back from hell? Don't worry, it's a living person, not some evil spirit or devil. You have a friend in hell. Guani said with all his strength. Then tell me, I'll help you move him back to the material world. As long as it's a living person, it won't be considered a resurrection that breaks the boundary between life and death. Guani believes that he can still do it with his own realm level. Zatanna thought for a while and said, I can't tell you the name for the time being, but you can try to use his nickname, and then use his real name. If it doesn't work, Guani said indifferently, it doesn't matter, irony magic is very free, as long as the name can accurately locate him. Zatanna took a deep breath. Then I said, Dad, don't be afraid. Is it necessary to lay so much groundwork? Even Guani began to get a little impatient. I'm a master of magic, professionally trained, and I won't be afraid of anyone. Zatanna, it's the Lord of the Endless. Crash. Guani's legs went limp subconsciously, and he fell on the grass. Who? It's the Lord of Infinity, that the giant beast said. Zatanna hurried to help him up. The Lord of Infinity is your savior. The Lord of Infinity. Guani still couldn't close his mouth. His daughter knew the dignified Lord of Magic, the supreme power who was chatting and laughing with the giant beast. Question mark? This is like a beggar hearing that his daughter knows the leader of the world's most powerful country. The gap between the two is so big. Oh, anyway, Dad, just cast the spell quickly. Zatanna heard that Gori was urging her very urgently, so she could only urge Guani helplessly. Guani stammered, ball, to. Gao Li, who was in hell, disappeared in a flash, and when he reappeared, he was already on the west coast of the United States. Guani's magic did not give a precise location, and the fact that he landed in the United States just happened to prove that Gao Li's luck was pretty good. Now that he was back on Earth, Gao Li was like returning to his base camp, and the rest of the things would be easy to handle. While notifying the hidden group to pick him up, Gao Li found a suite in a 5-star hotel, and started drawing lots inside. After all, he had done such a earth-shattering thing in hell, and the impact it had caused was absolutely immeasurable. So Gao Li opened the system with great expectations, and then his smile froze on his face. SS level? Damn system. Get out of here. Did you embezzle my influence? Gao Li cursed at the sky for a while, but it was a pity that this broken system had no intelligence, and did not even have a sense of existence when it was not drawing lots. Although SS level was also a very high level reward, he had saved the entire universe. It was impossible that he had only this little influence, right? After Gao Li calmed down again, he sorted out the cause and effect of the whole thing again. Based on his experience of using the system over the years, this system is like a rigid machine, and everything runs according to a fixed program. This is actually an advantage in Gao Li's eyes, because he can use the feedback of the reward level to explore things that he has not noticed or does not know. For example, in the previous terrorist attack, Gao Li got the first SSS level reward in his life. Although he did not know why at the time, he knew that an unprecedented change must have occurred. Sure enough, that night Gao Li learned that he had accidentally affected the absolute time point, which may lead to the destruction and collapse of the entire universe. Of course, there is one thing that Gao Li does not know, that is, the future superhero Shankai is likely to be stillborn. After all, the 10 rings were disarmed by Gao Li in advance. From this point of view, the awakening of the giant beast seems to have a huge impact, but perhaps the development results will not be much different with or without me. Gao Li recalled that Constantine and the swamp monster suddenly intervened, causing him to fail to destroy the ritual of the evil witch group by just a few tenths of a second. It was too coincidental, not too early or too late, just right. And the ghost? According to the giant beast, God will give the ghost different degrees of God's power according to the strength he thinks the ghost needs in this matter. So how does God know how much power is needed for this matter? Even the Ancient One can see the past and the future, so there is no reason why the so-called strongest god in the DC universe can't do it. Gao Li suddenly felt a chill on his back. Could it be that all this is arranged by God? Question mark? Whether he is involved or not, the giant beast may finally realize the coexistence of light and darkness. After thinking about it for a while, Gao Li decided to draw a prize to change his mood. After all, no matter how distressed he is now, it will not help. It is better to focus on improving his strength. Besides, no matter how powerful God's calculations are, they are all in the DC world. With the sole secret method given to him by the giant beast, Gao Li can finally bring the infinite magician ring back to the Marvel world. Chapter 54. My card repair technology is the best in the world. That's right, Gao Li plans to go back to the Marvel world to have a look. After all, he has been in the DC world for about a year, and he doesn't know what the situation is in the Marvel world now. Before this, Gao Li was worried about being hunted down and besieged by the old coin Ancient One, so he had been holding back from going there. Now that he can bring back the endless form with magic immunity, all the supreme sorcerers have to lie down. So the only thing I need to know now is how much magic my soul can hold. Is it enough to transform into the endless style once? Since the giant beast directly created more than 100 years of experience and skills and gave them to Gao Li can perform this sole secret method at any time. This is even more outrageous to Gao Li than the initiation and transmission of skills. It is obviously a new secret technique made by the giant beast on the spot, but he can forcibly create experience and skills that do not exist, as if fabricating history. It's just that Gao Li has experience but no practice, and he doesn't know how much capacity his soul has for magic. Let's try it after the draw. The giant beast is so versatile, the skills he created must be good. But if that's the case, won't it be more effective if I worship the giant beast when I draw the lottery later? Gao Li thought secretly. Brother giant beast, please bless me to draw something good. Hey, wait a minute, I'm going to worship the giant beast. The evil witch group is actually me? Question mark? Gao Li quickly shook his head and threw this inexplicable association out of his mind. Start drawing. The lottery machine with the SS level logo on its forehead turned into a light spot, and the rewards that came out really made Gao Li happy. Worshipping the giant beast is actually quite useful. Great. In the description given by the system, there are a few big words written. Shocker Cyborg Technology, the first edition. There is no doubt that this is the Shocker biotechnology that created Kamen Rider No. 1 and Kamen Rider No. 2. Shocker is the most classic villain organization in Kamen Rider. Its core concept is we brainwash and transform forever. Oh no, it's sacred hegemony of cycle kindred evolutional realm Shocker for short, and it wants to conquer the world with the evolved cyborgs. In other words, Gao Li can not only transform himself into Kamen Rider, but also transform others into monsters. No wonder he is rated SS level. Among the several troubles that Gao Li is currently facing, one is that he has no fighting power before the transformation. For example, when he fought with Ancient One before, Gao Li had to use a small skill to control Ancient One first, so that he could transform into Kamen Rider Kronos more safely. But that trick of controlling the field is estimated to be not useful next time. Ancient One will definitely use magic to protect his big bald head in advance, and he will not be able to use it, no matter how flaming his head is. If Gao Li can make good use of the cyborg technology, the situation will be very different. In the Kamen Riders in the first, the power basically comes from themselves, and the so-called transformation is nothing more than a combat suit and helmet with a layer of protection. Even if they don't transform, they have the terrible power to stop a truck with one hand, which can just make up for Gao Li's physical weakness. But we need to study and improve it more. Otherwise, while making up for a weakness, we will add another defect to ourselves, which will be putting the cart before the horse. After the initial excitement, Gao Li quickly calmed down. The theme of Kamen Rider No. 1 and Kamen Rider No. 2 is the sorrow of cyborgs. It is very exciting to watch them as film and television works, but it is unnecessary to change Gao Li himself. Gao Li doesn't want to have any sorrow, nor does he want to turn himself into a monster. What's worse is that the first version of Kamen Rider will have a fatal flaw, that is, it needs regular blood transfusion. If it is not a cyborg with a 400% adaptability like Hango Takashi, the general cyborg will suffer backlash. If it does not rely on the shocker technology to transfuse blood for a long time, it will eventually die in pain. Ichimonji Hayato is an example. The next step is to see how much magic power my soul can hold. After putting away the cyborg data, Gao Li sat down cross-legged, closed his eyes, and ran the soul secret method. After careful filling, Gao Li found that the amount of magic power stuffed in was enough to transform into the Kamen Rider Wizard Endless style about 3 times. The principle is also very simple, similar to the copy magic of copy, using magic power to clone temporary drivers and magician rings. Of course, this is mainly because Gao Li is the master of magic power, and his adaptability to the knight's magic power is the best in the universe, so he can hold such a huge amount of magic power in his soul. After all, the amount of magic power required for the endless mode is extremely large. If it were someone else, they might not be able to put in the amount for even one transformation, and their soul would be burst. Why do I feel like I have become Sun Wukong? I just happen to have 3 life-saving hairs. But it should be enough in the Marvel world. Gao Li opened his eyes contentedly. These 3 transformation magic powers can also be taken out separately to support him to use other ordinary magic. Then I will keep the magic power from transforming into the endless form twice for emergency use, and use the 3rd magic power to supply ordinary magic, so that I can basically maintain full combat power in the Marvel world. After making all the preparations, Gao Li began to study the biological transformation technology of shocker. First, Gao Li was also curious about shocker science, and second, Gao Li found that in addition to magic, there was something that could be brought from the DC world to the Marvel world. That is knowledge. As long as the knowledge is turned into memory, it can also be carried along with the soul. After 49 days of hard research, Gao Li initially mastered this technology, but still had no idea how to improve it. However, Gao Li was too lazy to wait any longer, and it would be more efficient to go back and discuss with Tony how to improve it. Today, the Supreme Lord of the Endless will arrive in his loyal Marvel universe. During his research, Gao Li also used the resources of the Hidden Group to build a safe house and a life support capsule to ensure that his soul would not die after leaving his body. This was actually just Gao Li's precaution. After all, if the departure of the soul really caused the body to decay, then his body in the Marvel world would have been rotten long ago. In short, it is definitely right to take more precautions. After Gao Li arranged the next development plan of the Hidden Group with Harley, he entered the safe house and lay in the life support cabin. Original. System crossover. Start. As Gao Li gave the order, his consciousness immediately became blurred. Then, just like the first time he entered the world Xianai, Gao Li felt like he was floating in the deep sea. When light appeared above, Gao Li quickly surfaced, and then, Cersei, he seems to be awake. A little girl's voice sounded in his ears. Gao Li opened his eyes in a daze, and looked at it. It seemed to be a little lolly of 11 or 12 years old. But the expression and eyes of this little girl were full of vicissitudes and maturity that should not be there, just like the hundreds of years old legal lolly commonly seen in Japanese comics. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 55, Eternals x Captain America x Winter Soldier. The Oriental woman called Cersei by the little girl looked gentle and steady. Excuse me, what happened to me? Gory, who had just woken up, was still a little confused about the situation. Cersei and the little girl looked at each other. Sybil, do you want to tell me or should I? You tell me, I'm not good at this. Cersei nodded and said to Gory, we found you downstairs, so we took you home to take care of you. Is that so? Thank you very much, I will report back in the future. Gory thanked them briefly, and then asked curiously, aren't you worried that I'm a bad person? If I'm an alcoholic, then you two ladies are in a bit of danger. Will they be in danger? Cersei and Sybil looked at each other again and almost couldn't help laughing. They are not actually human beings, but the Eternals who were sent to Earth by the Celestials 7,000 years ago, comparable to ancient gods. It is really a fantasy for a mere mortal to want to threaten the Eternals. Okay, now that you've recovered, go ahead and don't stay at our house. Sybil didn't answer Gao Li directly, but just impatiently ordered him to leave. Don't worry, I'll leave right away. Gao Li also considered that Gu Yi might come to cause trouble, and it would be bad if it affected the two of them, so he nodded and agreed immediately. Before leaving, Gao Li expressed his gratitude again, and confirmed their identities. Miss Cersei, and, Miss Sprite, right? Thank you for your kindness. I will send a thank you gift to this address. Note 1, no need. Cersei waved her hand. We will move out soon. Don't send anything here. We don't need your return. I prefer good people to be rewarded. Gao Li shrugged, but it all depends on your idea. Bye. When Gao Li came downstairs, he realized that he agreed too early. Looking at the old cars and retro buildings all over the street, Gao Li was stunned on the spot. If this is not a film and television city, then there is only one conclusion. He accidentally came to the wrong time. Could it be the side effect of the time that Gu Yi and I reversed at the same time? The inertia of the timeline threw my body to an earlier period, and my soul went to one Xianai with the system. Gao Li frowned and pondered the reason. After several hours of exploration, he was able to confirm that he had returned to the World War II period. Originally, Gao Li thought that he had his own savings and could contact Tony, so he left Cersei's house without hesitation. As a result, it seems that Gao Li has become an illegal household in this era. He has no money, no identity, and is homeless. He can only go back to seek help. However, when Gao Li returned to Cersei's door, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Why is it different from what I remember? With Gao Li's strong memory, he was very sure that he had not gone to the wrong place, but the terrain here was completely different from Cersei's home. He tried to knock on the door, but he didn't expect it to be pushed open directly. This door was not equipped with a door lock at all. When he saw the scenery behind the door clearly, Gao Li got goosebumps and felt a chill on his back. There was no one inside, not even a piece of furniture. What's going on? Is it haunted? Gory was horrified. Cersei did say that she would move out before, but wasn't she moving too quickly? Thinking that he was a magician after all, suppressing demons and monsters was no problem, Gory gradually calmed down. There are many strange people in the Marvel world. I guess I just met two. There's nothing strange about it. But speaking of strange people, it was obvious that half a day had passed, but there was no trace of the Ancient One, which made Gory a little concerned. Could it be that the Ancient One didn't know that he had come to this era? In addition, the Ancient One said that he couldn't see his timeline clearly, so it was very likely that the Supreme Sorcerer of this era didn't know about the conflict and battle between Gory and the Ancient One in the future. To be on the safe side, Gory went to the alley first and changed his appearance with the transformation and dress-up magic. This was also a test of whether his night magic was useful in the Marvel world. Fortunately, it worked just like in the DC world. In addition, Gao Li also found a countdown on the system panel. 331 days, 18 hours, and 20 minutes. Gao Li clicked on the time, and a stream of information immediately flowed into his mind. Every time the system travels, it consumes the accumulated space-time energy. It takes about a year to accumulate it before it can travel back and forth between the two worlds once. Gao Li touched his chin thoughtfully. It seems that he can't go back to the DC universe for the time being. These magic powers must be used sparingly. What should I do next? Gao Li muttered to himself. I have no money and no place to live. I can't steal or rob, right? Speaking of which, in the entertainment works that Gao Li has seen before, aren't there always gangsters harassing the protagonist? Why haven't there been any gangsters coming over yet? If there were, Gao Li could pretend to be robbed and then justifiably kill the rich and help the poor. Just as Gao Li thought of this, he saw two strong black guys approaching with evil smiles, and their target was the alley where he was. Gao Li's eyes lit up when he saw this. What you need is what you get. Ah, I'm so tired and alone, Gao Li said with no acting skills or emotions, and I have a lot of money. I'm so afraid that someone will rob me. The two black men who were approaching halfway. This kid seems a bit weird. However, he has been a little short of money recently, so after hesitating for a while, the two decided to find a poor guy to supplement their income. After a while, the two black men intercepted Gao Li one after the other. Gao Li also secretly added a few small magics to himself and looked at them with great expectation. Come on. Today I will experience the self-defense of unlimited fighting. Boy, if you know what's good for you, cooperate and hand over all the valuables. Otherwise, we don't know what tragedy will happen. The two showed their shining white teeth, grinning and pressing forward step by step. At the same time, the two young men passing by the alley also changed their faces and heard this sentence. Everyone is in danger, but they are still robbing in broad daylight. This is outrageous. The thin young man said indignantly. Bucky, we should go help him. The man called Bucky grabbed him and said, wait, Steve. The enemy is numerous, and we are few. We can't expose ourselves casually. We must find the right time to save people. Steve, huh? Where did the enemy come from? Did you not consider me as a fighting force at all? P.S. Sabia is a transliterated name, which is actually the word sprite. At the same time, Sprite is also the English word for Sprite, but there was no Sprite beverage during World War II. Chapter 56, a feast for several Soul Palace elders? But Steve was self-aware enough to force himself not to ask this question. But on second thought, Steve felt something was wrong. But even if I'm not counted, you and the man who was robbed can just match them 2x2, right? Bucky and Steve really have a great relationship, so good that they don't hide anything when they talk. Oh, that's because I have to free up my hands to protect you at the same time, so the combat power is about the same as losing one person. After all, with your personality, you can't just watch, right? I know you too well. Steve. Bucky. He said with a complicated expression. I'm not a fool. If I find that I will drag you down, I will definitely. Shh. Bucky interrupted him and motioned Steve to look at the changes in the alley. I don't know if it's an illusion, but they always feel that the man who was robbed has an excited expression on his face. Eager to try? Huh. Is this the expression that should appear on the victim's face? The suspected victim laughed impatiently. He. No one will come to save you, even if you scream your throat out. Bucky and Steve. No, did you get the lines wrong? The two black men were also stunned, and one of them punched him impatiently. What are you talking about? Ow. His fist was like hitting steel with all his strength, and it instantly became red and swollen, and the internal bones were fractured. Facing his screams, Gao Li mercilessly punched him to the ground, and kicked him several times in a row. Enemy, F asterisk asterisk K. Enemy, hit. The black guy next to him was stunned, and of course Bucky and Steve were also stunned at the same time. It seems that they thought of the villain completely wrong. You let my brother go. Otherwise I won't be polite. The remaining black man was still affectionate and righteous, and tremblingly made a fist towards Gao Li. Wow, you dare to protest? Gory raised his chin. You're not running away, but approaching me? Your friend, with his miserable condition like frog shit, clearly told you that I'm invincible. At this point, Gory changed the subject. But considering your iron spirit, I will try to make you accompany him with less pain. Before the other party could react, Gory knocked him out with a punch as fast as thunder and lightning, and kept his word, and omitted the subsequent kicks. Bucky and Steve were dumbfounded, and thought they were dreaming. Seeing that Gory had squatted down, and started to search the pockets of the two people, Steve finally couldn't help but jump out to stop him. Stop. You are committing theft and robbery. Please stop here, otherwise any crime will be brought to justice. Gory was lamenting that the two poor guys couldn't find a penny on them, and then he suddenly jumped out to be a victim. You are. Gory squinted to identify him. Captain America was as famous as Iron Man after all. Although the muscles and body shape were very different, he still managed to recognize him by face. Isn't this Steve Rogers? He looks so good after not seeing him for a few years. If you don't stop, we will call the police. Gory looked at the speaker again. It must be Bucky Barnes, the future Winter Soldier, who is Captain America's best friend. At this time, Steve and Bucky were undoubtedly very nervous, and prepared to fight with Gory if they disagreed. After all, they had seen clearly how strong this man was just now, and it was very likely that they could not beat him together. But just like the two of them planned to save Gory before, Steve and Bucky also have the courage and character to not fear evil. But after Gory stood up, he seemed even more justified than them. Let me stop. Why should I stop? What's your position to ask me to stop? Are you also standing on the side of the criminals, accusing the victims of guilt, and wanting to become accomplices of the criminals? Steve and Bucky were both stunned. What do you mean we are standing on the side of the criminals? It's obviously you. That's right. Gary interrupted him. It was me who was almost killed. Two tall and strong black men with gangster tattoos, and I was alone. It's obvious who is stronger and who is weaker, right? Then it's justified self-defense for me to stop their evil deeds at this time. And you stand up and accuse me of not asking for compensation. What's your intention? Steve and Bucky opened their mouths wide, looked at the two black men who fell to the ground, and then looked at Gary who was unharmed. For a moment, they didn't know how to refute Gary's distortion of right and wrong. Bucky was smarter than the tongue-tied Steve and said immediately, no matter what the reason was, didn't they faint in the end, and you were not harmed at all? What bullshit? Is your brain damaged? Do you want to think about the logic of what you said? Are the perpetrators too useless and unable to cause any harm to the victims, so they are not considered perpetrators? Gary spoke in a very righteous manner, as if the light of righteousness was surrounding him. Do you understand what attempted crime is? Do you understand what attempted murder is? If I didn't have some strength, I don't know what would have happened to me today. Who would have paid for my life then? So it's reasonable for me to ask them for some compensation. Since you don't want me to take it from them, are you going to give it to me? You say such nice things, why don't you pay for them? Steve was unconvinced. We did nothing wrong, why should we pay for them? We just want to stop the crime. Gary pointed at Steve, who said you did nothing wrong. Pointing fingers at the victim is itself an act of mental violence. Now I've suffered serious mental trauma, so I have the right to claim compensation from you for the mental damages I deserve. Think about a poor man who was robbed, but was criticized by you from the moral high ground. Is there any justice? Is there any law? Steve was stunned, and Bucky felt that he could no longer argue with Gary, who came from the internet age, so he could only bite the bullet and take out his wallet. Okay, we'll just compensate you some money. Now he just wanted to get this over with quickly. Gary almost made the two of them dizzy. In a trance, for a moment, he actually thought that they were the ones who were wrong. But after Gary took the money, he pressed down on the two of them by the shoulders, intending to fleece the two good guys until they were bald. Wait, since you're helping them, you might as well help them to the end. I'm poor and homeless right now. I don't know what will happen if someone gets hungry, especially someone who is very skilled. Steve and Bucky looked over in disbelief. He didn't even act anymore and turned it into a threat, right? Chapter 57. The rules of victory have been determined. Bucky snorted coldly. How can you be penniless and destitute? Didn't I just give you the money? That little money is only enough for food. How can it be enough for a hotel stay? Gory said grimly. You too. You don't want me to break into people's houses at night because you have no place to sleep, right? Steve couldn't help but said. Then you will be shot to death by the landlord. And we can call the police to arrest you. Gory shrugged and said, I'm just thinking about it now. It's not illegal to think about it in my mind. The police can't catch me, and look at my strength. How many people will fall into my hands before the police arrive? And all the reasons are, because you are unwilling to help a poor homeless person, which is equivalent to harming them. It is true that my skills may not be as good as firearms, and I might be shot to death. But why is that? Isn't it because you didn't let me live in your house, so I had to take the risk? Alas, a poor young man died on the spot. I will thank you, even if I become a ghost. Alright. Steve couldn't stand the moral kidnapping beyond his time. Stop talking. I'll let you sleep on the floor in my house, okay? Steve. Bucky exclaimed. How can that be? This guy is obviously not a good person. Steve sighed. After all, he looks like a teenager. I can't watch him go astray. Besides, he held back when he hit the second person just now, so he shouldn't be that bad. Then you're pretty good. You're pretty good at judging people. Gory said with a smile. He mainly wanted to tease the two superheroes while they were still young and solve his own housing problem by the way. Seeing that Steve had made a decision, Bucky could only accept his fate helplessly. Okay, but you must not do evil again. Let's get to know each other. My name is Bucky Barnes. His name is Steve Rogers. What about you? Gory said without hesitation. My name is Legend Noah. In order not to alert the Supreme Master and possibly cause some troublesome paradox in the future, Gory decided to temporarily use a pseudonym and a fake image to move around in this era. By the way, he can also get the blessing of the two legendary Ultraman in the mysterious field. Maybe he can win a prize in the lottery in the future. When they arrived at Steve's house, Steve pointed to the empty room. Although there is a vacant room, it is my mother's bedroom. She was a nurse who died of an infectious disease. If you don't mind, you can move in. If you mind, you can only sleep on the floor. By the way, there are also bedding. You can use the ones left by my father, including clothes. He died in the First World War, so you can rest assured. Hearing Steve's honesty, Gory felt a little embarrassed because of his previous prank. He said seriously, thank you for your honesty and taking me in. I'm sorry for threatening you just now. I will pay you in the future. Steve waved his hand and said, it doesn't matter as long as you don't degenerate and become a criminal. Although Steve looks thin and small, he is already in his 20s. In his opinion, Gao Li, who is only in his teens, is a bad boy who loves fighting, so he has such good skills. In this chaotic era, everyone has a hard time. Even people with high education find it difficult to find a job, let alone a gangster like Gao Li. So the reward, Gao Li said, is impossible in Steve's opinion. It's hard to say whether he can support himself in the future. It's better to live a good life with his feet on the ground first. Gao Li didn't know that Steve had so many inner dramas. After saying what he wanted to say and making himself feel relieved, Gao Li began to think about the next plan. Before coming to the Marvel world, Gao Li had never thought about going back to the World War II, so all the things he wanted to do before were disrupted. Speaking of the story of Captain America during World War II, there was a very important villain called, what was his name? Was it Hydra? Gao Li recalled carefully for a while. It seemed to be a German Nazi organization. Thinking about the origin of Captain America, a new idea came to Gao Li's mind. The first thing I have to do is to optimize and improve the technology of cyborgs so that I can have as few side effects as possible when transforming myself and try not to change my appearance as much as possible. Secondly, I need to create a Kamen Rider system so that I can have sufficient self-protection ability. If I rely solely on magic power, the magic power will run out sooner or later. To achieve the above 2 points, there is a common rigid demand. That is the most advanced technical support in the current era. There is no way, whether you want to make a Kamen Rider, or want to do a transformation operation, you can't do without supporting facilities of sufficient level. As the saying goes, a good cook can't cook without rice. Just like if you want to make high precision chips, you must have a top level lithography machine as equipment. It's like throwing Gao Li to the primitive era. No matter how solid his theory is, it is impossible to rub out the technology of the Kingdom of Light with stone hands. Even for a genius like Tony, there are at least raw materials for making missiles in the Middle East, which gave birth to the Iron Man Mk1. But on the other hand, Gory is also confident that he can try what Tony can do, but this time it involves transforming himself, so the more perfect the conditions, the better. When Gory thought about this clearly, his future goals became clear. During World War II, there should be 3 places that are suspected to meet the conditions. Gory thought quietly and listed them one by one in his mind. The first is the Strategic Scientific Reserve of the United States. The technological level of the United States and the Marvel Universe at the same time is undoubtedly far superior to the United States in Gory's previous life, so it is very likely that it can meet Gory's needs. The second is Hydra. If Gory remembers correctly, the Cosmic Cube seems to be there with Hydra, and Hydra has also developed cross-era weapons such as laser guns. The third is Wakanda. Gory doesn't remember this place very clearly, but since it is the only movie with an all-black cast, he still has some impression of it. It seems to be an African country that is close to the outside world, and because of vibranium, it has science and technology that are many years ahead of the outside world. The more Gao Li thought about it, the clearer his ideas became. The formula for victory has been established. Let's use the United States as a springboard first, but how can I contact the Strategic Scientific Reserve? Gao Li thought for a while. Although he didn't know how to find the Strategic Scientific Reserve, he knew that there was someone who was related to the Strategic Scientific Reserve, and he was also very conspicuous. I didn't expect to be related to the Stark family again. Gao Li pinched his eyebrows. It's decided to be you. Howard Stark. P.S. I hesitated for a long time between Noah Rigido and Rigido Noah. These two are neutral words that can be used as surnames and given names, but Noah is mostly female, so I finally chose Rigido as the name and Noah as the surname. Chapter 58 World Tree Consortium. The next day, Gory used the money given by Bucky to buy some raw materials such as syrup and baking soda, plus a few glass containers. When Bucky came to visit Steve, he saw Gory mixing a glass of orange liquid. Oh my god, I didn't even know we took in a wizard. Is he going to mix some poison? Bucky poked Steve with his elbow jokingly. Why did you provoke him, causing him to want to poison you with potions? Steve said helplessly, I don't know what he is going to do. It looks like a chemical experiment, but most of what he bought are ingredients. Bucky said with a smile. Could it be that you hurt his self-esteem yesterday? So he insisted on pretending to know something, as if he was very knowledgeable and could do chemical experiments, but he didn't know that he was using ingredients, which only added to the jokes. Bucky had just complained halfway when Gory placed a glass bottle of orange liquid in front of him. This is a drink. The texture and taste are no worse than Coca-Cola. I named it Fanta. Do you want to try it? Fanta was originally a drink that was born in Germany after Coca-Cola withdrew from Germany during World War II. With Gory's level, it would be easy for him to replicate it in advance. Bucky shrugged and said, I don't have the habit of drinking wizard potions. You. Before he finished speaking, Gory gave up on him and handed the Fanta to Steve. Forget it if you don't dare to drink it, Steve. Do you want to try it? Bucky's stubborn temper came out. Who do you think dares not drink it? After all, it is made from ingredients. It can't really become poison, right? Drink it. He grabbed the Fanta and drank it down in big gulps. Huh. You know what? It's really delicious. Not worse than Coke. Bucky smacked his lips with satisfaction and looked at Gory with a little surprise. I didn't expect Rigido to have this ability. Really? Steve was very curious, and he also took another bottle of Fanta that Gory prepared and drank it, nodding in agreement. It's pretty good. As long as you think it's good. Gory said, I will mix the concentrated original juice. You can help me contact the channels to blend it and then sell it to the outside world. The price should be lower than that of Coke, and we will split it 50 to 50. It's a good idea, but our scale is not as big as Coke. If the price is lower than that of Coke, after deducting the costs of labor and share, we will hardly make any money. Bucky's father was a fallen soldier, but his mother had run a lot of small businesses, so his family was better off than Steve, so he knew a lot about this. However, as the CEO of the group, Gary understood this better than him. He said indifferently, it doesn't matter. How much money can you make from selling Fanta in the early stage? That's not what I'm aiming for. Bucky was a little confused, but he could see that this was a great business opportunity. He nodded and said, okay, you provide the secret recipe, so you have the final say. Anyway, we won't lose money by following the taste of Fanta. The three of them quickly divided the work. Bucky used the channels left by his mother to contact small factories, while Steve relied on the connections accumulated by his enthusiastic personality to promote the product. A few days later, a simple distribution network was laid out. For this novel and cheap drink, many people couldn't stop drinking it after just one drink. In addition, Gary's marketing methods such as tasting and fake cues made Fanta quickly popular and soon became famous throughout Brooklyn. You have to know that Fanta can sell 3 million bottles a year under the economic conditions of Germany, where the whole country is at war. Gary was not surprised at all by this achievement. As Gary expected, such a similar and extremely threatening drink was immediately discovered by the keen Coca-Cola company after reaching this scale. When a giant company sees a new competitor product that is obviously of great commercial value, the first measure it takes is often not to suppress it, but to acquire it. Take advantage of its weakness and quickly acquire it. Your product is so good that it can threaten me, then great, I will own such a good product and make my financial report more brilliant. As expected, Coca-Cola immediately sent several groups of representatives to negotiate. Although Fedian Group has a special negotiation team, Gory is not unfamiliar with this. At least he is much more proficient than the two Brooklyn guys who still feel like they are in a dream. Steve and Bucky, who had never expected Fanta to be so fierce, could only hide quietly beside them like old-fashioned people who had never seen the market, like turtles shrinking their heads, watching Gory and the representatives of Coca-Cola fight with each other. After several rounds of wrangling, Gory finally sold Fanta to Coca-Cola at a very good price. Only then did Steve and Bucky figure out what Gory meant by I'm targeting at the beginning. Okay, we have the money to start a company. Although Steve and Bucky got half of the profit, Gory did not accept their subsequent investment. Money makes things easier. Gory not only used money to solve the problem of illegal residents, but also completed the process with ease and established the World Tree Consortium. However, Gory hired these two good guys with excellent character. He didn't have to spend a lot of time looking for trustworthy people for many things. He just handed them over to them. The first product of the World Tree Consortium was also a life artifact superglue that has not yet been released. Gory only took a little time to successfully replicate it. When negotiating with Coca-Cola, Gory also won the distribution rights in Brooklyn and won more power than ordinary distributors, such as he could add some gifts himself. So with the help of Coca-Cola's huge sales network, Coca-Cola products in the entire Brooklyn area will be accompanied by a small amount of sample superglue, and the usage and company will be clearly written on the superglue packaging. It is no surprise that superglue is popular all over New York. Such a useful thing, which can stick to almost anything, and sticks very firmly, is very popular among the people. The reputation of the World Tree Consortium has soared, and Gao Li took advantage of the opportunity to launch the second heavyweight product that has an impact on the world. Microwave oven. This simple small appliance is easy for Gao Li to make, and it is also a convenient appliance that can benefit thousands of households. Compared with the microwave oven that can just put it in, press a button, and wait for the food to heat up, all other existing heating methods are weak. Therefore, the microwave oven has undoubtedly made a big splash in the home appliance market, and it is a natural killing. With these two Trump products alone, the World Tree Consortium has enough capital to spread sales throughout the country and has a well-known terrifying reputation. Many behemoths such as the military industry are indeed much better than the World Tree Consortium in all aspects, but the industries they involve have nothing to do with ordinary people and are far less well known than the World Tree Consortium that has penetrated into every household. And what Gao Li needs is this fame. Chapter 59 Disgusting. So disgusting. The World Tree Consortium has expanded so rapidly and explosively, taking advantage of the fact that its competitors haven't reacted yet, and it has occupied the market in one fell swoop. In fact, it has become somewhat deformed and unbalanced, and there will definitely be many hidden dangers in the future. However, Gao Li doesn't care about this. He doesn't really want to create a powerful new company, of course. This can also bring him influence and wealth. But the World Tree Consortium is essentially Gao Li's first stepping stone. Anyway, there are many inventions that appeared after World War II, but can change the world. Gao Li can easily create a Zaya Group or Hongshang Foundation. Just when the reputation of the World Tree Consortium was at its peak, Gao Li came out and announced in a high-profile manner he was going to hold a press conference. The World Tree Consortium was going to enter the military industry. Stark Industries' weapons were garbage, and he was going to expose and criticize them in public at the press conference. When it comes to creating program effects and hotspots, no one can compare with Gao Li from the information explosion media era. He knows how to attract people's attention. Each of these three pieces of news is a sensational and explosive news. The White House held the first press conference in history in 1913, but that was an official government event, and commercial companies rarely did so, not to mention a very famous emerging company like World Tree. However, World Tree was only famous in the field of civilian products, but it suddenly announced that it would get involved in the military industry, which was completely unrelated. Moreover, it also targeted the Stark Group, the leader of the military industry, and pointed out that it was garbage, which highlighted its arrogance, ignorance, and fearlessness. For a time, reporters across the country were excited. The controversy caused by Gao Li was too big. Even if it was just for fun, the people of the United States were all closely watching this biggest fun news of the year. Black and red are also red. World Tree Consortium declared war on Stark Industries? Howard Stark looked at today's newspaper in surprise, with an extremely strange expression. He had heard of the name of World Tree, and those small products were indeed easy to use. Although there was no technical content, it was indeed full of wonderful ideas. Howard could do it easily, but whether he could think of doing it before was another matter. Therefore, in his opinion, the president, Ryuji Noah, was quite capable and intelligent. However, with such a low level, it was okay to stir up the muddy water of the civilian market, but it was too presumptuous to want to touch the military industry. Question mark? Is there anything wrong with Noah's brain? He has no self-awareness at all. Isn't this a case of hitting a rock with an egg? Howard frowned deeply. Just responding to Ryujido's remarks was an insult to his IQ. However, the entire American people were attracted by this big news, and most people were not aware of the technological gap between the civilian and military fields. If they really didn't respond, everyone would think that Stark Industries was a coward. After all, the size of the World Tree Consortium was there. Although it couldn't even touch the edge of Stark Industries, it could rely on its bloated reputation that far exceeded its scale, which gave people the illusion that it could barely touch Stark Industries. Therefore, it was not possible not to respond. Howard just figured this out and suddenly couldn't even eat the breakfast in front of him. Disgusting. So disgusting. This was Gory's real purpose. He might not be able to match Stark Industries for a long time, but he could develop a false reputation by using various means and methods to make it extremely inflated. The next day, all major newspapers published Stark Industries' response statement, written by Howard himself. I have to say that I admire their courage. Maybe they thought that super portable microwave or high capacity all-purpose glue could make a difference on the battlefield. But I want to remind them that victory on the battlefield cannot rely solely on the brilliance of appearance, but also requires technical strength. The military industry is not just a gorgeous coat, but also requires deep accumulation and unremitting innovation. Here, I would like to give this civilian product company a wise motto. Even if a train is equipped with tracks, it cannot compete with a tank. Stark Group has always believed that only real military technology can be invincible in the gunpowder smell of war. Howard, who is also a star figure, confronted head-on, which immediately ignited the passion of the onlookers. If only one party initiated the provocation and the other party did not respond, it would be too lacking in confrontation and the fun would not be that good. Once both parties clearly decided to fight on the ring, it would undoubtedly be the best national entertainment program in this era of lack of entertainment. For this reason, whether it is during work breaks or after dinner, people will discuss this matter with great interest. It is simply an unrealistic fantasy for the World Tree Consortium to compete with the Stark Group in the military industry. Yes, the Stark Group has always been a leader in the military industry, and their technology and equipment are top-notch. You understand military industry again. I think the World Tree Consortium also has its own unique features, and their products are very easy to use. Yes, they have a great influence in the field of civilian technology, and perhaps the military industry can also bring new innovations. Haha, I laughed. The Stark Group SOMs are famous all over the world, and what cards can the World Tree Consortium really play? Considering the strength and reputation of the Stark Group in the military industry, they are more likely to win. Even this matter was spread overseas. After all, the Stark Group is a multinational star international giant, and many countries are closely following major events related to it. In the spotlight, the first press conference of the World Tree Consortium was officially held. Due to the previous hype, there were even more reporters present than when the White House announced any major political affairs, which can be said to have attracted full attention. Gao Li, who used the alias of Rigido, took the stage and began to mercilessly list the defects of the weapons manufactured by Stark Industries one by one. You are not professionals, so I will try to explain it in easy to understand terms. First of all, we can see that in the configuration of the appearance and size, Howard Stark did not consider the optimization of shooting stability at all. It is obvious that he pursued visual effects and ignored engineering practicality. As Gao Li spoke, he showed the densely marked engineering drawings. Combining the calculation of aerodynamics and shooting dynamics, we found that there is an obvious risk of inertial loss of control in the gun system. The sight has a continuous instability phenomenon under high-frequency shooting. It is obviously the result of unreasonable control system design. Although the reporters in the audience did not understand, they still excitedly lit up a large area of flashlights. Because this Rigido Noah seemed to really have something to say. It will be more exciting only when the opponents are evenly matched and compete on the same stage. It will make them more excited than if Rigido knows nothing. Chapter 60, famous throughout the world. It is true that Howard Stark is a genius who is ahead of his time. But Gao Li is also a genius, and he also has all kinds of advanced knowledge from later generations. It is not difficult for him to find loopholes in Howard's design. Therefore, Gao Li mercilessly criticized Howard sharply and spoke for more than an hour before wiping his mouth and stopping. Next, let's move on to the second phase of our press conference. Although the reporters in the audience were confused from beginning to end, they were still very excited to record everything faithfully. Previously, Rigido Noah basically found fault with Stark Industries products. Is he finally going to release the dry goods of his own company? I'm honored to announce that our company has discovered an aminoglycoside antibiotic and named it streptomycin. This is a specific drug for treating tuberculosis, and it is the gospel of ending tuberculosis. As soon as Gao Li finished speaking, the reporters were stunned. The scene was silent. They were talking about the military industry before, but why did they suddenly turn to the biological and medical fields? Isn't this a big leap? Wait, what did you say, Mr. Noah? Suddenly a reporter reacted and couldn't help but widen his eyes. You said there is a special medicine that can treat tuberculosis? At this time, other reporters also woke up from their dreams and were in an uproar. Tuberculosis? Is it true? It's an incurable disease. Oh my god. This is definitely big news among big news. No wonder they are so excited. You know, tuberculosis is a terminal illness in this era. The prevalence of tuberculosis is still very high. From the 17th century to the 20th century, tuberculosis was even called the White Plague. Until the 1930s, the treatment for tuberculosis was just rest and breathing fresh air, as well as indirect therapies such as enhanced nutrition. The efficacy was less than 25%, and the mortality rate was ridiculously high. And Gory's announcement is like announcing that cancer can be cured in modern times, and it is even more sensational than the confrontation between World Tree and Stark. Yes, I can be very sure of this. Gory nodded clearly and said, the relevant paper will be published in the near future. Please pay attention. In fact, this is the result that Selman A. Waxman discovered a few years later, and won the Nobel Prize for it. Gory embezzled it in advance to save trouble. Of course, Gory, who is not short of money now, has already used a lawyer to forge a legacy from a distant relative to compensate Selman, and the amount is several times the Nobel Prize. As for reputation, statistics and later generations have found that any scientist who has won the Nobel Prize will have a cliff-like decline in his ability to invent and create after that. They are like they have achieved satisfactory achievements and are too lazy to continue to strive forward. If we look at it from the perspective of retaining Selman's scientific research vitality, it is better not to let him win the Nobel Prize. However, Gory also privately recruited him to participate in the research. When the paper is published, Selman will be given a position as the second author, which can be regarded as another kind of compensation. Similarly, Gao Li, the inventor of microwave ovens and superglue, also gave similar compensation measures. After all, the money in this era is not very helpful to him after a certain level. In the remaining time of the press conference, Gao Li continued to publish some biological results, which attracted everyone's amazement. The headlines of the next day were all about Rigid Onoa, who set off a sensation across the country and even the world. In this regard, in addition to paying attention to whether his biological and medical results are true, the remaining focus is on Howard's reply and rebuttal at the speed of light. In summary, Rigid Onoa's understanding of the control system is obviously one-sided. Our thermal weapons use advanced inertial compensation and feedback control technology under high-frequency shooting, which can effectively suppress the inertial runaway phenomenon. The problem he mentioned may be caused by other external factors, not the unreasonable design of our weapons. Now, Howard is not just disgusted with Rigido, but also headache, annoyance, and exasperation. Good guy, I didn't expect this Noah to be really powerful. Question mark? At least after reading the mistakes he pointed out, Howard had to admit that there was indeed a small part of his argument. Of course, it was only that small part, and Howard would not agree with the rest. Gao Li naturally did not mind making trouble, and he published an article that day to slap Howard in the face, causing the newspaper to have to print more copies urgently. It's ridiculous. How do you explain the pneumatic system full of errors and the poor recoil suppression technology? It completely sacrifices stability during high-speed shooting. Howard did not back down and posted a message the next day. How can you understand the Terra cooling system and advanced materials I use? They can definitely adapt to the needs of the battlefield perfectly. It's so funny. Stark Industries' flashy nouns should be stopped here. Both the bolt structure and the barrel strength are not up to standard. Don't use flowery words to cover up your low-level design. Haha, your confidence is amazing. I think you have completely overlooked our group's unique spiral rifle design and its amazing effect in improving ballistic performance. Your ignorance and prejudice are ridiculous. The protracted war of words between the two sides was exciting to watch, but it was rare to see the playboy Howard, who was once so glorious, being scolded and at a disadvantage throughout the whole process. Especially after the physiological and medical achievements headed by streptomycin passed peer review and were quickly reproduced and proved to be effective. Gory's reputation around the world has risen several levels. Throughout the whole process, Gory was only looking for problems with Stark Industries weapons, but did not mention any solutions. Although he failed to optimize thermal weapons, he undoubtedly demonstrated a very high level of military industrial scientific literacy. With this foreshadowing, the top military officials were finally alarmed and sent people to ask Howard in person, what is the level of this Rigid Onoa, and is it worth absorbing into the strategic scientific reserve? Howard was both annoyed with Rigido, but his inner pride did not allow him to lie, so he could only give a true answer in an extremely awkward and uncomfortable way. Although he is a little bit worse than me, don't look at me like that. He is really a little worse. Okay, maybe it's not that bad. He can barely be on par with me. Anyway, he is a rare super genius in the world. At this point, Gory's information officially entered the desks of the top leaders of World War II, both Germany and the United States. After all, Gory's amazing talent and achievements in biology are exactly what Hydra leader Red Skull John Schmidt urgently needs. It wasn't long before the Hydra spy compiled a file and sent it to him. Soon, Red Skull personally gave his approval for a talent like Gory who is good at both military and industrial biology. If we can't recruit him, we'll just kill him. Chapter 61. Captain America is gone. New York, Brooklyn. Although Steve and Bucky shared a large sum of money, he did not indulge in luxury and pleasure, but donated most of it. The remaining little was used to decorate his small apartment. Steve did not plan to move out. This place where he grew up carried too many memories of him. Have you really made up your mind? Bucky asked beside Steve. At this time, the two were looking at their appearance in front of the mirror and combing their hair into an adult look. Well, I have made up my mind to resign from Mr. Noah and continue to join the army, Steve said firmly. If bringing back Rigido was the first major event that changed his life, then Steve felt that the decision he made at this moment was the second major event that changed his life. You have donated so much money to the army. It is considered to be a good thing, right? Steve, you should continue to stay in the World Tree Foundation. But Bucky did not think so and showed a very disapproving look. Besides, it's not like you haven't been rejected for military service before. Your physical condition is too poor. They won't agree. That's two different things. Steve shook his head. This money was not earned by my ability. It should be used by people in need. Besides, even if I donate it to the front line, it doesn't mean that I can sit at home and watch others sacrifice for me. I have to do everything I can. Bucky sighed when he heard this, knowing that he couldn't convince this stubborn friend no matter what. If Steve could change his mind so easily, he wouldn't have been rejected from joining the army repeatedly and still persisted. Why do you want to resign with me? Steve changed the subject. Obviously, you gave all the money to the Lehigh barracks. You should stay in the World Tree Consortium, right? Bucky said lightly. My father was a soldier. After he passed away, the barracks took good care of me. I want to repay them, and I hope to be a person like my father. Steve didn't say anything, but directly bumped fists with Bucky, and everything was said without words. When the two of them went to the office to find Gory, they got straight to the point and said, Mr. Noah, thank you very much for your care all the time. But we have already made up our minds and hope to resign and join the army. Please understand. Gory smiled and said, don't be so polite. Just call me Rigido. Anyway, we will still be colleagues after joining the army, so there is no need to resign. I can keep your position for you. Steve and Bucky were both stunned and looked at him in surprise. No. Rigido, are you going to join the army too? Gory shook his head and said, no, but I have been recruited by the Strategic Scientific Reserve and will soon become a military scientist. Awesome. Steve sincerely admired that Rigido's changes were really changing with each passing day. When they first met, Steve thought that the other party was a misguided bad youth and even wanted to lead him on the right path in life. Now when I think back, the clown is actually me. Strategic Scientific Reserve? Bucky asked in confusion. What department is that? I've never heard of it before. Gory spread his hands and said, I don't know much either, but it seems to be very powerful. I heard that it has a very high status in the military. Steve's face changed when he heard this, and he looked a little shy and embarrassed, as if he wanted to say something, but was embarrassed to say it. Gory understood at a glance, and said with a smile, why, do you want to ask me for help with something? Steve hesitated for a long time before speaking out with Bucky's encouragement. Actually, I have been rejected by the recruitment office many times. If it's convenient for you, I wonder if you can help me. Of course I know this behavior is not good, but, oh, forget it. I'm very sorry to make such a request. It was really against Steve's moral principles to openly say that he wanted to take the back door. So he was flushed and trembling with shame just halfway through. However, Gory understood what he meant and laughed. "Don't worry, no problem. When I get there, I will use money to poison the military leaders and make them corrupt with me so that it will be very convenient." Steve was shocked when he heard this. "Absolutely not, Rigito." The door of the reception room next door was also pushed open at the same time, and a dashing woman rubbing her eyebrows helplessly walked out. "Mr. Noah, can you please not talk about corruption in front of me, a military representative?" Steve and Bucky were both shocked, and then they heard Gory introduce, "This is the liaison sent by the military, Ms. Peggy Carter." Gory used money to open the way to solve the problem of illegal immigrants. If he only did business, of course it would be possible, but once it involved the background investigation of the confidential department, it would immediately appear full of loopholes. Therefore, before the military confirmed that Gory was not a spy, it could not allow him to join the Strategic Scientific Reserve for the time being, and could only send an agent to keep in touch with him. When he heard that Carter was a military man, Steve felt even more ashamed of his previous remarks, and his head was almost lowered to 90 degrees. Carter didn't pay much attention to Steve. He just glanced at him and continued, "It seems that you have guests to entertain, so I won't stay long. Goodbye, I won't see you off." Gory waved at Carter's departing back and looked back at Steve and Bucky. "Let's talk about resignation. No jokes this time. If we put aside the spiritual theory, then joining the army with your conditions, Steve, will only hinder us. You are my friends and have helped me for a while, so I won't say some hypocritical polite words to you. Although it's not nice to hear, it's the truth." Bucky poked Steve and whispered, "I'll tell you." "No. Rigido will definitely not agree. Look how reasonable he is." "But Steve bit his lip and was interrupted by Gory as soon as he opened his mouth. "Steve, first of all, it will be difficult for you to pass the physical examination of the conscription office. Secondly, even if you succeed in joining the army, do you want to be a burden to your comrades on the battlefield? If you want your comrades to leave you alone when you are injured on the battlefield, have you ever thought about how much psychological trauma will be left on your comrades who do not save you?" Gao Li's words seemed extremely cold, extinguishing the passion in Steve's heart. "After all, your joining the army will at most move yourself, but it will cause a huge burden to others. Steve, I won't hurt you. You should give up this idea. P.S. In this universe, I advanced the time for Hydra to obtain the cosmic cube. According to the movie, it only took more than a year to analyze the cosmic cube and successfully transform it into weapon energy. This speed is really outrageous. It is the power of the Infinity Stones after all. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 62. I've long wanted to join Hydra. Gory didn't know if what he said would lead to the disappearance of the future Captain America. But Gory didn't care about that. Steve was already his friend, and Gory couldn't ignore him just to keep the course of history. He couldn't be so selfish to his friend. Besides, with his butterfly wings flapping, who knows what kind of accident will happen. Maybe Steve will be killed by a stray bullet on the battlefield before he can become Captain America. I know. Steve responded dejectedly. Although he has an indomitable spirit, he is not a stubborn fool. Therefore, Steve certainly understood the interests analyzed by Gory, and he also knew that what he said made sense. It's true that my idea is too naive. I'm not as knowledgeable as you, and can't help much, but I will try not to cause trouble for others. Bucky patted Steve's shoulder reluctantly, and Gory felt a little guilty for dampening other people's dreams. Although there is actually a solution for cyborgs, the improvement plan and facility hardware are not yet ready, and Gory doesn't want to give Steve false hope. It's good that you can listen to my advice. Besides, I don't recommend Bucky to join the army. After all, there are always various accidents on the battlefield. In short, Gao Li expressed his clear opposition and told them to go back and think it over. If they still insisted, Gao Li would do his best. After seeing the two off, Gao Li immediately drew the S-level rewards he had received not long ago. After the rapid development of the World Tree Consortium, Gao Li has gained a lot of influence. May the heavens and the earth show their spirits, and all things above will show their spirits. Start drawing. Gao Li gave an order, and the lottery machine went from rotating to turning into light spots in one go. After the rewards condensed, Gao Li looked at it intently. There were actually 2 items in this physical reward. Desired driver and core ID. Gao Li picked up the black driver and the red and white Polar Fox core, and his expression was a little strange. This is a belt from Kamen Rider Polar Fox, which gathers the technological power of future people, and is the ticket to participate in the Desire Grand Prix. It seems pretty good. At least you don't have to develop the driver and core yourself, you can use them as soon as you get them. But, this stingy search did not give any buckle, so can't I only transform into the most blank login form? Forget it, I have obtained the power of a new knight for a long time. Let's try to transform into one first. Gao Li put the desired driver on his waist and put the core ID of Polar Fox into it, but nothing happened. Gao Li's head was full of capital question marks, and soon a message came into his mind from the driver. Those who are not bound to the core ID cannot use this core ID to transform. This core ID belongs to Fuio Hidetoshi. Gao Li had more question marks on his head, and he even wanted to curse at the system in his heart. System, are you stupid? Question mark? A good physical reward, but you gave me an unusable one. What's the use of giving me the original core of General Fu? Exclamation mark. Forget it, calm down, not that, don't get angry. Gao Li took several deep breaths before he barely recovered. Thinking in a positive direction, it was good enough to get the technological products of the future people. As long as he has the physical object in hand, Gao Li can try to analyze the technology bit by bit and finally use it for himself. What if there is no core ID? He can make one himself when the time comes. He can also make the buckle himself, whatever he wants to use. Angrily putting away the desired driver and core ID, Gao Li decided to leave work early today. Gao Li's residence is located in Steve's apartment building, but the interior has been bought and opened up by him, and he has made countless hidden modifications. Just visible, there are reinforcement and anti-theft measures everywhere, as well as various small magics that Gao Li has superimposed layer by layer. It can be called a small fortress. The reason why he decorated it with such fanfare and insisted on living in such a conspicuous position is that Gao Li has never caught the target he wants to catch. This occasionally makes Gao Li a little distressed. Why is the big fish not biting the hook? Could it be that he was cursed by the fisherman and can catch everything except what he wants to catch? If he doesn't come again, he will really join the Strategic Scientific Reserve. Fortunately, just a few nights later, just as he was about to rest, Gora's eyes suddenly moved slightly because the magic he secretly arranged was triggered. The big fish has taken the bait. Gori carefully sensed that the spy who sneaked in was now threatening and luring Gora's clone to join Hydra. It should have nothing to do with the US military. If they want to deceive my identity, they should pretend to be Hydra to contact me instead of asking me to join Hydra. Gori was able to basically confirm the other party's identity, so he pretended to be afraid and agreed to the Hydra spy. The spy was overjoyed to hear this. For such a talent that the Red Skull values, it would be a great achievement to be able to bring it back smoothly. There is an old saying in the East that a man who knows the times is a hero. Mr. Noah is indeed a contemporary talent. He immediately changed his attitude and complimented Gori with a smile on his face. Gori stopped pretending and said sincerely, "To be honest, I've wanted to join Hydra for a long time." Spy. As a top spy, he has received special training and can judge whether a person is lying from his macro expressions. At this moment, his conclusion is that this wretched Noah really wants to join Hydra sincerely and sincerely. The spy's judgment was correct. Gori had been planning to use the United States as a springboard to join Hydra from the beginning. The reason is very simple. First, it is less psychological burden to pit an anti-human evil organization. Second, Gori judged that the technological level of Hydra is higher than that of the United States. In the United States of the Marvel Universe, the technological strength of the same period is stronger than that of the United States in Gori's previous life. Similarly, the technological strength of Germany in the Marvel Universe is also stronger than that of Germany in his previous life. However, on this basis, Germany also obtained the Cosmic Cube, which is like vibranium to Wakanda, which will surely take Germany's science and technology to a higher level. Although he was full of doubts, the spy knew that he could not hesitate, and he took Gori to the border that night. The reason why Gori also contacted the Strategic Science Reserve was naturally because he wanted to catch both Germany and the United States. He immediately used the replication magic to leave an avatar to take charge of the overall situation, and the real body ran away with the spy. Due to the importance of the Red Skull, the spies who carried out the mission were granted the highest authority, and almost all the channels buried by Hydra in the United States were used on the way. Even Gori had to cite the strong penetration of Hydra. After sacrificing a large number of Hydra spies, they successfully transported Gori to Germany. The Red Skull personally met Gori at the Hydra headquarters and first slapped a newspaper in front of him. Mr. Noah, why has there been no news of your disappearance in New York? But there is news that you were seen at the headquarters of the World Tree Consortium recently. Chapter 63, Day Shocker in Hydra. Although the replica Gori tried to stay at home as much as possible, it was still difficult to hide it from everyone. But Gori had already planned it. He gestured with his hands like an accordion. It must be fake news. The World Tree Consortium is a big company, and the US government must have found someone to pretend to be me. This will not only stabilize the situation, but also take away my company in a logical way. They are so shameless. The Red Skull thought it made sense. After all, it was easy to tell whether the Rigido in front of him was real or fake, as he showed from his subsequent scientific research level. Mr. Noah, I heard from my subordinates, you have always been eager to join Hydra. That's right, Gori said with a beaming face. I have been thinking about your organization for a long time. The garbage Strategic Scientific Reserve has not approved me to join for so long. It is a waste of my youth. Only an organization like Hydra that can do whatever it takes for research can fully exert my talents. The United States has so many ethical and humanitarian rules and regulations, which is a shameful waste of my divine wisdom. Gori gave a passionate speech for 20 minutes in front of the Red Skull. His gestures made him feel like he was seeing the head of state. However, the Red Skull fully understood the general meaning of Gori's expression, and he had seen many such scientists in Hydra. In order to seek truth and explore things of interest, these people have abandoned wealth and status, and their inner moral concepts are extremely weak. They only want to do the most effective and useful experiments. As for whether those experiments are too anti-human, and whether human experiments will be used, they don't care at all, and only regard human life as experimental products similar to mice. According to Red Skull's observation, the more scientists with this quality, the purer they are in scientific research, the more powerful they are, and they can devote themselves to it. It seems that this Rigido Noah is just such a crazy scientist. Even if he has a lot of wealth in the United States, if he wants to conduct human experiments, even the government has to do it secretly, let alone him. So there is no doubt that Hydra is more suitable for Rigido. This idea lasted until Gao Li took out the design manuscripts of a dozen weapons, which made Red Skull completely believe him. Please look, this is a special weapon designed for you. After I admired you for a long time, I learned from the US military that they discovered that Germany was secretly carrying out the super soldier plan, and you are the first successful person. So I specially designed a super weapon that can cooperate with you and the super soldier. This gun is called GM01 Scorpio automatic rifle, which is very powerful, so the recoil is also terrible. In fact, this is one of the supporting weapons of Kamen Rider G3. Gao Li simply drew the design drawing according to his memory, and it is true that only the power of Kamen Rider can use this gun. At the moment, when the Super Soldier project has not yet succeeded, Gao Li is not worried that Hydra will equip Scorpio, not to mention that the technological content of Scorpio is not too high. But the most important thing is to gain the trust of Red Skull. In other words, ordinary humans can't use this gun at all. However, the physique of the super soldier is different. It can use the electromagnetic rifling system to shoot with high precision, which is a perfect match. After all, Hydra has even developed a laser gun. Red Skull's vision and weapons is naturally very high, and he immediately looked at the weapon design carefully. It must be said that it can be called ingenious and ingenious. At least it is enough to kill all the weapons currently displayed by the US military in seconds, and it is definitely not something that can be designed overnight. The most important thing is that, as Rigid Onoa said, only the physical fitness of super soldiers can use this kind of firearms, and ordinary humans don't even have to think about it. If he didn't care about Hydra and wanted to contribute to the super soldier project, how could he have designed this kind of firearm that is completely useless to the US military when he was in the United States? Very good, Mr. Noah. I feel your dedication and passion for Hydra. Red Skull raised his hand with satisfaction. Welcome to join us. Long live Hydra. Gory also wiped his hands excitedly and shook hands with Red Skull. Long live Hydra. The volume and passion made Red Skull nod secretly. It was great. It didn't seem like an act. Soon, Gory was arranged to be a senior scientist inside Hydra, specializing in weapons and biological research. Although Gory was not allowed to access top secrets such as the Cosmic Cube, because he had just joined Hydra, all other cutting-edge equipment was basically open to him. Gory was ecstatic. What was the difference between this and inviting him to buy for free? Gory first spent a few days to tour the Hydra base and roughly figured out what equipment he wanted. Then, just like a mouse in a rice jar, he started stealing. Copy, please. Copy, please. In the dark and deserted place, Gao Li first used the copy magic to create a few clones, and then used the two-piece set of appearance change to change the appearance. What appearance should I change? Gao Li thought about it, and decided to choose those innocent Hydra carters and Hydra soldiers he met on the road. In this way, it doesn't matter if they are photographed by the surveillance equipment. It's better to be photographed. Thinking of this, Gao Li's mouth corners slightly raised. Hehe. Let me parasitize the great shocker in the Hydra. In a blink of an eye, Gao Li's happy scientific research life has passed for a month. In this month, Gao Li met the German scientist who always frowned the father of the super soldier serum, Abraham Erskine, and often asked him some questions. Of course, in order to prevent the leakage of Shocker's cyborg technology, Gao Li asked about the difficulties and topics that were separated from it. Gory had no idea how to optimize the technology of cyborgs. He originally planned to go to Tony to discuss research after returning to the Marvel world. After all, the brainstorming of geniuses is much more efficient than his own hard work. Tony is too arrogant to leak his technology. He is the best candidate. Who would have thought that Gory would come to the World War II period? At this time, Tony was not even a fertilized egg. He could only irritate his father first. Fortunately, there are super geniuses in every era. Dr. Erskine is a perfect scientific research partner. It can even be said that he is the third reason why Gory wants to come to Hydra. But since Gory is very happy, it means that Red Skull is very unhappy. Pop. In the Red Skull's office, he angrily threw an ashtray out. This is the 37th desk item thrown out this month. Check. Screen everyone again. The infiltrated Great Shocker organization must be cleared out. Chapter 64. Sword pointing at the Cosmic Cube. The subordinates opposite him were silent, but they were reluctant to carry out Red Skull's order. What? Red Skull glared. Do you want me to ask you to leave? The subordinates looked at each other, and one of them said bravely, But, this month, Hydra's internal members have been investigated more than 10 times, and everyone is panicking. Yes, at least hundreds of people were directly purged, just because they were suspected, which led to serious staff shortages at the grassroots and middle levels. Even the head of state expressed concern and dissatisfaction with this. The secretary on the side also added with a stiff upper lip. After all, Red Skull's self-inspection action was too crazy. The Red Skull sneered. What do you say we should do? Important equipment is being stolen every day. Can you help me find it back? Those arrested carters were caught on camera doing strange things, but they were not aware of anything during the interrogation and insisted that they were innocent. Do you think this is possible? There is no doubt that they must have an extra firm belief, so when faced with the extreme pain of torture, they can still pretend to be ignorant without fear of death. The subordinates were speechless immediately. They recalled the performance of those betrayers and felt their firm belief. Obviously, there was irrefutable evidence, but they still denied it with innocent faces and even refused to reveal the mastermind behind the scenes, even when they were tortured to the point of screaming. At least they asked themselves that they could not do it. Faith is the core concept that maintains Hydra, but now it has been contaminated by others. It is by no means a one-time effort, but we knew nothing about it before it happened. Isn't this shocking? What kind of organization could have infiltrated Hydra to such an extent? However, after searching over and over again, we have only found the name Great Shocker. Red Skull became more and more excited as he spoke, and he stood up and slammed the table. In other words, this is a matter of life and death for Hydra. If the Great Shocker, that is parasitic inside Hydra, is not eliminated, then one day Hydra will be completely eroded. It will be called Hydra, but it will actually be Great Shocker. Could it be related to Rigid Noah? The secretary suddenly guessed. Just from the time point of view, many strange things happened after his arrival. Red Skull shook his head. For newcomers like Noah, it is customary to deploy personnel and surveillance throughout the entire process and monitor him around the clock. However, apart from repairing the super weapon every day, Noah just likes to chat with Erskine. There is no extra movement, which is innocent enough. That's right, Gory did not do any weapons research work at all and only slacked off on Scorpio. Because he was slacking off, he was happy. And Red Skull was also tired of looking for spies in the organization during this period, so he could only let Gory take advantage of Hydra's large amount of resources for free. After all, Gory is different from other Hydra members. He is an irreplaceable top scientific research talent. It is impossible for the Red Skull to attack him inexplicably without any reason. Moreover, who can afford to use top scientists as spies? In fact, Gory is far more than just a freeloader. It can be said that he, who uses clones to transform into Hydra cadres to steal, is the real source of headache for the Red Skull. The internal access control of Hydra is basically no different from air to Gory. He first opens a magic circle connecting to the inside, and then opens a magic circle connecting to the outside world, so that he can seamlessly move equipment from inside. If he encounters heavy giant equipment, Gory will use shrinking magic to take it away directly, send it to the secret warehouse established in advance, and then enlarge it. It is not difficult for him at all. The whole set of procedures can be described as flowing like water, which makes people wonder why you are so skilled. We have already made several sets of Kamen Rider G3, and we have acquired all the necessary equipment. It's time to aim at the Cosmic Cube. When using copy magic, Gory was not the only one working on the armor, and he created a Kamen Rider team. G3 is the easiest knight technology for Gory to achieve, and all the needs can be met by just the Hydra equipment that has been moved away. Gory's original body is pretending to be innocent in a laboratory full of surveillance cameras, while the clone number 2 Gory begins to wear the armor of Kamen Rider G3 with the help of other clones. On the other side, number 3 Gory changed his face to that of a Hydra cadre who had not been caught, and stopped Erskine in the corridor. Drive Erskine, are you interested in going with us? You look like Anderson. I've seen you before. Erskine was stunned. What do you mean by going with us? Am I not already under the control of your Hydra? Number 3 Gory smiled and said, let me introduce myself. I'm actually a spy of the Great Shocker Society that is hiding inside Hydra. This time I'm here to take you out of the sea of suffering. Our Great Shocker's philosophy is completely different from Hydra's. It aims to achieve the happiness of all mankind, so it is called Sustainable Happiness Organization with Computational Knowledge Embedded Remodeling. Sustainable Happiness Organization with Computational Knowledge Embedded Remodeling, so that's it. The abbreviation is the origin of the name Shocker. Erskine suddenly realized that he had heard of this secret society that had recently turned Hydra upside down. To be honest, Erskine felt very happy about it and even wanted to thank this Great Shocker for helping him to take revenge on Hydra. An organization with this kind of philosophy should at least be better than Hydra, right? Erskine muttered to himself, I do want to leave, but this place is heavily guarded, and I'm afraid it's too late to rely on you alone. Number 3 Gory subconsciously glanced in the direction of number 2 Gory, and a mysterious smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Don't worry, the Hydra guards will soon not care about you. Erskine didn't understand what he meant, but soon he thought of something else. By the way, if you are sure, can you help me rescue another person? Number 3 Gory said in surprise. Why, does the doctor have any relatives here too? Not really. Erskine shook his head. I recently met a very talented young man named Rigid Onoa. He has such talent at the age of a teenager. It is definitely the only one I have ever seen in my life. It would be a waste if he fell into the control of Hydra. Although I heard rumors that he joined Hydra voluntarily, based on my contact with him, he is a good kid with a good heart. He should have been forced to pretend to be in harmony with Hydra. With his talent, he will definitely be helpful to you, Shocker. Number 3 Gory hesitated. We will consider it. Maybe you will have a chance to work together in the future. Erskine said worriedly. Then how do you plan to lure away the Hydra guards? If you are not sure, don't involve him. I'm afraid he will be executed as a defector. Number 3 Gao Li raised a finger to his lips. Listen, it has already started. Chapter 65. The True Knight is Invincible. In the laboratory, Gao Li leaned back in a chair and closed his eyes to rest while projecting his consciousness onto the clone number 2 Gao Li. Although the clone created by Gao Li using magic is very similar to the shadow clone and can act independently, he still feels more at ease when the main body handles the key matters personally. If you look at it from the surveillance, it is a few Hydra carders who walked into the small room with a smirk, and when they came out, they had become fully armed Kamen Rider G3. According to convention, Gao Li still left himself a way out in case of failure, so he did not use the GM01 Scorpio automatic rifle that had been displayed, and the GG02 Salamander howitzer that needed to be matched. Although there was only one melee weapon, the GS-03 Destroyer Super High Frequency Shock Sword, on hand, it would be fine to grab any long-range thermal weapon, and the difference was not that big. Soon Gao Li met the first patrol of Hydra soldiers. The other party was stunned for 0.5 seconds at first, and then raised his gun and shot without hesitation. Enemy attack. Enemy attack. Gory had already picked up the destroyer and charged forward, not dodging the blue beam. He just wanted to take a direct hit to test the destructive power of the G3 armor. After all, the clones were not afraid of death. Bang. One of the major features of weapons powered by the cosmic cube is that the bullets have their own explosive properties. A ball of fire immediately exploded on the surface of Gory's armor. It hurts a little. Gory instantly estimated the destructive power. Compared with ordinary weapons, it was already quite amazing. It was indeed a technology that was one era ahead of the US military. If it was concentrated fire again this time, it might really cause the armor to be damaged. It didn't work. The Hydra soldiers were shocked when they saw this. Since the upgrade to laser weapons, they have not seen any bulletproof vests that can withstand it. After a brief shock, they were well trained and wanted to try concentrated fire attacks, but unfortunately Gory would not give them another chance. Facing the enemies on the battlefield, especially the Nazis, Gory never had the concept of holding back. He swept his sword across, and the ultra-high-speed vibrating blade cut everything off smoothly. The scene was extremely bloody. Fortunately, Gao Li installed the automatic coding function in the MDSS artificial compound eye in advance, and changed the display color of blood, and then filtered out the bloody smell. Well, it basically won't cause physiological vomiting reaction. Is this the laser gun that uses the energy of the cosmic cube? Let me try it out and see if it works. Gao Li picked up a handful and held it in his hand as a hot weapon and continued to kill towards the location of the cosmic cube. At this time, the Hydra base was full of alarms, and the Red Skull, who was awakened from his sleep, immediately received a report. Is there an enemy forcibly breaking into the base? The still confused Red Skull almost thought that he hadn't woken up or was still in a semi-sleepwalking state. Someone actually dared to attack the Hydra headquarters with the most complete manpower and firepower. Question mark? What is the size of the enemy? The Red Skull asked casually, but the secretary seemed a little hesitant. After hesitating for a few seconds, he finally said something that even he himself could hardly believe. It seems that only one has been found so far. One person. Red Skull felt that he was still dreaming and even wanted to try his ancient method of pinching himself. Breaking into the Hydra base alone, isn't this definitely courting death? Idiot. Don't bother me with such a small matter. Capture him, find out who is behind it, and then execute him on the spot. Red Skull ordered angrily. In order to investigate the spies of Great Shocker, he had not slept for several days. Yes. Seeing that Red Skull was angry, the secretary did not dare to continue to disturb him, and could only retreat carefully. Even this can be known to the whole base. The quality of this generation of Hydra is not good. We need to train them well. Red Skull lay back on the bed angrily, spent a few minutes to calm down, and just as he was about to fall asleep the attacking troops were all wiped out. The secretary rushed in breathlessly. I received this message before I had time to convey your order. What did you say? Red Skull turned over and got up in astonishment, and his sleepiness was completely awake. You can't even solve one enemy. What are you all doing? Ignoring the secretary who was sweating profusely, Red Skull quickly rushed to the monitoring room, his face full of gloomy anger and disbelief. Who on earth is this? Is it the US military? Or other allies? Red Skull looked carefully at the monitoring screen and saw a blue armored man with a sword in his left hand and a gun in his right hand, killing all the way from the Nanshanman. Oh no, from the southern area of the base to the northern area, he was simply invincible. The soldiers' counterattacks were not without effect, but the armored men would never stand still and shoot at them. Basically, they would charge at the face of the armored men. In front of the armored men's laser guns, the soldiers could only dodge or hide in the bunkers while aiming at him and shooting, which was extremely inefficient. Unfortunately, the armored men's speed was comparable to that of a sprint champion, and it was very difficult to hit them. Even if they hit 1 or 2 shots, it would only leave marks on the surface. In other words, before they found an opportunity to focus their fire, the armored men had already rushed to them. Then, bang! Red Skull could hear the earth-shaking muffled sound through the screen. No one could stop the 1-ton punch. This was more than twice as high as Tyson's punch, which set the world record. Basically, they would die if they were touched, and they would be injured if they were touched. Once the armored men entered the queue, they could only watch him go wild. Many soldiers even opened fire in extreme fear and shot several of their companions to death, contributing to the armored men's achievements. Arseholes. What a bunch of good-for-nothings. Red Skull slapped his keyboard in anger. Where are the armored vehicles? Where are the tanks? Send them all out to besiege him. We have already dispatched the tank troops, but, the soldier in the monitoring room said tremblingly, the armored man only took the indoor route and didn't give the tanks any chance at all. Indoor route? Or an indoor route that can effectively avoid the tank troops? Red Skull was stunned for a moment and then became even more furious. Why did the armored man know the internal structure of the Hydra base so well? The answer is obvious. This must be a traitor of Hydra, and a Carter level traitor with high authority to explore most areas. Damn it. Could it be Shocker again? After the Red Skull was angry, he felt even more uneasy. After all, that was Shocker who had caused him countless troubles. Mark the armored man's route on the map and see where his destination is. As the soldier operated, Red Skull's heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, it's the worst development. Although it's a little roundabout, it can be roughly seen that the target is the storage place of the Cosmic Cube. Red Skull did not wait any longer and rushed out of the monitoring room immediately. The Cosmic Cube is the top priority of Hydra, and there must be no accidents. Chapter 66 Senior HUO, have you really betrayed me? Gao Li stopped in front of a gate. Even though he was wearing the protective armor of Kamen Rider G3, he had paid the price of being torn and tattered after getting here. Not only was his whole body sore and sweating, but the damage notification of the armor was almost covering the internal display screen of the artificial compound die. If nothing goes wrong, the Cosmic Cube should be here. Gao Li's method of confirming the location of the Cosmic Cube was very simple. First, he marked the restricted areas that he had no authority to go to, and then used the connection magic circle to look inside one by one. Although the connection magic could not allow him to pass through as a whole, it allowed only part of the body to pass through, so Gao Li could stretch his upper body in to check. This method was also used to remotely manufacture G3 in the warehouse. I originally wanted to use the connection magic to take the cosmic cube away directly, but I couldn't activate the connection magic near this area. It was as if it was severely disturbed by space. This was the biggest basis for Gao Li to determine the location. It is very likely that the cosmic cube has a strong ability to disturb space. If he remembered correctly, he seemed to have seen an introduction in his previous life that the cosmic cube was a space gem. That was not surprising. However, since it can be used as a weapon energy source, Gao Li speculated that as an energy source, it may have been in an excited state all the time, which is why it constantly disturbs the space. Therefore, he wanted to try to turn off the trigger device of the cosmic cube, and then see if he could use the connecting magic circle to take it away. As for creating a chaotic situation, it is convenient for the clone Gao Li to take Dr. Erskine to fish in troubled waters, which is a side effect. Allahu hole open. Gao Li shouted, and the physical wand destroyer ultra high frequency vibration sword in his hand directly hit the door. Faced with a high frequency of 2 million vibrations per minute, no matter how solid the door is, it is no different from paper paste, and it was soon cut into a large hole as high as a person. Through the hole, a faint blue light can be seen. Gao Li was about to step into it, and the wall was directly broken with a bang. Stop. The voice of the Red Skull came from the loudspeaker. He actually drove a tank, and crashed in straight line. Even the wall was demolished by the Red Skull forcibly for more than 20 layers, which was enough to show how anxious he was. Don't stop. Gao Li's main character is a rebel. After finding that the laser gun was not very useful against the tank, he threw the destroyer out with his backhand. The Red Skull was not easy to deal with either. At the same time, he aimed at Gao Li and fired the main gun. Bang. Sure. The extremely fast vibrating sword blade cut off the tank's main gun like cutting butter, and Gao Li was also blasted away by the blue light cannon more than 10 meters away. The external armor is completely damaged. The generator has been severely impacted, and the output has dropped by 70%. The battery module is damaged, and the remaining capacity is seriously insufficient. At this time, in Gao Li's artificial compound eye interface, there are already reports of damage all over his body, and he is almost unable to get up again. Of course, Gao Li can't learn to cast off like Hojo, otherwise he will die more miserably. Then there is only one answer to what to do. Reinforcements are constantly coming. You have no chance of winning. Surrender, and there is still a chance to survive, if you tell the truth. The Red Skull crawled out of the tank whose main gun was destroyed, and said with forced suppression of anger. After all, he was also envious of such a powerful armor, and this might be the biggest breakthrough for him to reach Great Shocker. As Red Skull said, through the hole behind the tank, more and more Hydra soldiers could be vaguely seen gathering. However, Gory smiled calmly and tremblingly got up in front of all of them. John Schmidt, do you think you won? Gory took off his helmet, revealing his fake face, which immediately made Red Skull exclaim. Hoffman, it's you. Why? Why did you betray the Great Hydra and hide under this ridiculous mask? No. Gao Li said loudly to everyone. For so many years, I have learned to suppress myself, wearing a disguised mask in Hydra every day, and forgetting my true self. However, the truly noble Shocker saved me. I was infected by their great idea of leading all mankind to evolve and give corresponding happiness. This is the direction we should follow. The Red Skull's expression immediately turned cold. It's really the Great Shocker. Shocker spies like you can never be killed. This month, he has executed too many Hydra members, each of whom seemed so firm in their beliefs in the past, but secretly betrayed the Hydra's policy. Even before they died, they would rather show their shameful appearance of crying and swear to pretend to be innocent to cover for the Great Shocker. Such a firm belief moved even the Red Skull and all the insiders. They couldn't help but subconsciously think, what kind of organization is the Great Shocker? Exclamation mark. Why can so many people swear to die for him? Question mark. At this moment, Gory gave this answer directly. John Schmidt, it is true that your power and violence have killed many of my compatriots, and I'm about to die like them. Under the complicated gaze of the Hydra soldiers who came, Gori was like a pioneer who was not afraid of sacrifice. Yes, my body may rot, my bones may be gnawed, but, except for my soul, behind the mask I took off, it is not flesh and blood, but a sacred concept. And the concept is invulnerable. Red Skull knew that he could not continue to speak, and gnashed his teeth and roared, "There is no hope. Kill him." Before the Red Skull's voice fell completely, Gori had already rushed towards him, shouting loudly, "Don't think about really killing me, because my spirit is immortal." At the same time, Gori activated the self-destruct device on the G3 armor. As a scientist, it is reasonable to install a self-destruct system on his creation. As for Gori's replica, it was essentially a magic that was continuously consumed. He exploded it into magic power on the spot, and mixed it into the next explosion. Boom. Violent flames erupted in the words of martyrdom. This extremely shocking scene was like a brand, deeply engraved in everyone's mind. And the Red Skull is worthy of being a super soldier. He hid behind the tank at lightning speed, and used it as a shelter, to resist the damage of the explosion. But even the Red Skull couldn't help sweating, and felt a chill on his back. It's not because of Hoffman's fearlessness, but because of the terrible facts behind it. The secret society called Great Shocker seems to have completely crushed Hydra in terms of brainwashing, and it is even very likely that it has been thoroughly rooted in Hydra. P.S. Thank you Dvok for the 1500 point reward. Chapter 67. Thank you, Gao Li. Hehe. The continuous internal purges have made everyone lose their loyalty. At this time, when everyone is in such a panic, a new target, Day Shocker, has appeared. How are you going to deal with it? Gori in the laboratory laughed evilly and put his consciousness into the replica number 4 Gori. At this time, number 4 Gori was disguised as another Hydra cadre and lured the real Hoffman to a remote corner without surveillance. "Conrad, what do you want to talk to me about?" Hoffman asked a little uneasily. Before the alarm of the Hydra base was lifted, he was pulled over by his old friend. "Let me show you a treasure." Number 4 Gori smiled strangely. "Look at what this is." As he spoke, he took out a silver-colored pistol, which was different from any weapon Hoffman had seen before. "Is this a new product from the weapons development department? It's different from the styles I've seen before. Could it be the work of the Rigid Noah who came recently?" Number 4 Gao Li introduced. "Yes, this gun is called the Victory Hyper Gun. With it, you can defeat everything. Ahem. I mean it's not yet fully developed. According to the design, by switching different magazines, the Victory Hyper Gun can fire signal flares, hypnotic flares, tracking flares, laser flares, barrier flares. But for now, it only has relatively basic functions." Hoffman seemed to understand what he heard and asked, "It seems to be very powerful. It can be called a universal gun. But why are you telling me this?" "Of course, it's to make you die with a clear mind." Number 4 Gao Li pointed the gun at him and pulled the trigger on the spot. With a bang sound of the gun, Hoffman lay down with his eyes open, and there was a bloody hole on his terrified face. "Connect, please." Number 4 Gao Li opened the connection magic circle and kicked Hoffman's body into the warehouse. Although living creatures cannot pass through the magic circle as a whole, the body is no longer considered a living creature. On the other side, Red Skull, who confirmed that Hoffman was blown to pieces without leaving any residue, dismissed the Hydra soldiers who came with mixed feelings. After all, the crisis has been resolved at this time, and a big hole has been opened in the location of the cosmic cube. This is top secret, and the fewer people know about it, the better. Of course, to be on the safe side, the cautious Red Skull still asked his trusted subordinates to investigate the surrounding situation, and called the monitoring room to confirm again that there was indeed no enemy. Red Skull finally put his mind at ease and entered the room to confirm the safety of the cosmic cube. Fortunately, the cosmic cube was still safe and sound. He really dared to break into the base alone. I really don't know whether to say Hoffman is too brave or too stupid. Red Skull just sighed, and suddenly a warning sign in his heart. This strong sense of crisis was unprecedented. He rolled over almost instinctively and dodged the laser bullets from behind. However, the trusted subordinates nearby were covered by the subsequent hail of bullets and remained in surprise and astonishment until their death. "Who is it?" The Red Skull was furious, hiding behind the bunker, and the number 5 clone Gao Li in the distance also let out a howl. It actually avoided it? It shouldn't be. Gao Li's plan was to first let the clone disguised as someone else come nearby, then use the connection magic to pull out a new G3 armor and put it on, and then pick up a laser gun to secretly ambush the Red Skull. Gao Li even deliberately left an interval before taking action, just to make it easier for the Red Skull to explore the surroundings, so as to paralyze and relax his vigilance. It should have been very effective, and those Red Skull's trusted subordinates who were shot and killed were the evidence. Although I don't know why, the big boss is really hard to kill. I have to do it myself. To be on the safe side, number 5 Gao Li switched to Gao Li's original consciousness, and like Hoffman, he fired a gun to suppress him while approaching with a sword. The Red Skull had been hiding in the bunker and didn't come out. Seeing that Gao Li had already rushed to the vicinity, he was about to chop him down to make sashimi for him, but a red fist hit the G3 visor with lightning speed. Gao Li immediately felt a huge force burst out, and the Red Skull quickly pursued the victory and kicked the laser gun in Gao Li's hand away. So strong. Gao Li rolled over and stood up again. His heart became extremely solemn. He had never fought with a super soldier before, and now he saw that it was really worthy of its reputation. In the past, some netizens calculated, based on Captain America's performance, that he had to have at least 4 tons of pulling force to hold the Black Hawk helicopter, and his punching force is often slightly smaller than his pulling force. Red Skull has a physique similar to Captain America, so it is very likely that Red Skull has at least 3 or 4 tons of punching force, which is several times higher than Kamen Rider G3. Another scoundrel of the Great Shocker? Red Skull sneered and pinched his hand bones. What a bold bastard. Well, let me show you what the power of God is. Red Skull has always used God as a metaphor for himself, and his second year performance is not limited to today, so he doesn't think he will lose to Gao Li at all. So what if he is covered in armor? After all, he is just a mortal inside the armor. It is far from being comparable to a true god, like him who represents human evolution. It's much more difficult than expected. I can only start plan B. I hope I can hold on until then. Gao Li thought silently, and suddenly felt that he was becoming more and more like Batman, always having a backup plan. Although he was thinking wildly, Gory didn't stop the destroyer in his hand and slashed at Red Skull with all his strength. Even if he was a super soldier, he was still a flesh and blood body that would die if killed. But Red Skull was a master of fighting. He flicked his sword lightly and knocked down the destroyer with a few consecutive hits. Now you don't even have a weapon. What can you rely on to fight me? Red Skull laughed wildly and punched Gory continuously, making him retreat step by step. Gory seized the opportunity to kick back, but Red Skull caught it with one hand and threw it away with disdain. How dare you challenge God without knowing your own strength? I will pull out your tendons and skin you and teach you a lesson with pain and blood. He became more and more crazy, and his tone was full of coldness and cruelty, as if he wanted to vent all the anger he had suffered from Great Shocker during this period. No matter how many ants like you come, they are equally vulnerable in front of God. After kicking G3's chest armor and denting it, Red Skull looked down at Gory, who was having difficulty getting up. HMPH, a futile and dying struggle. Just like Hoffman, go to hell as a shameful traitor of Hydra. What did you say just now? At this time, Gory suddenly spoke, without any embarrassment of a loser, but full of calmness of victory. It seems to be saying, no matter how many come, it doesn't matter. What? Red Skull was stunned, quite doubtful. The next second, he widened his eyes and watched 6 Kamen Rider G3s walk out of the door. Chapter 68 The Glorious 6 Ultra Brothers. At this moment, Red Skull was shocked. He had just checked the surrounding area not long ago, so where did so many enemies suddenly appear from? Question mark? Although he didn't take Kamen Rider G3 seriously and was not his opponent at all, he could at least fight him for a while. If the number was doubled and then doubled to 6, Red Skull was a little unsure. Red Skull was right. These Kamen Rider G3s did appear out of thin air. The clone Gory was created out of thin air through copy magic. The G3 armor was pulled from the warehouse out of thin air through connection magic. This is Gory's plan B. If he can't convince people with reason, he will use quantity to overwhelm them. Red Skull, today is the day you die. The leading clone Gory raised his hand and pointed at Red Skull in the air. You are also traitors of Hydra. Red Skull's face darkened. There are still 6 of them. How far has Great Shocker infiltrated? Just as you thought, we are no longer Hydra. The clone Gori retracted his hand and pointed at himself with his thumb. We are the glorious Ultraman 6 brothers under Great Shocker. Red Skull. Shafarin. First generation. 7. Jack. Ace. Taro. The 6 Gori took their positions one by one and shouted out their names like a team. The leader Shafarin Gori shouted, "Justice group fights are the tradition of the Kingdom of Light. There is no need to talk about the code of conduct when dealing with evil demons like Red Skull. Let's fight together." The 6 Gori rushed forward in a swarm. Just as Red Skull was about to move, he was hugged by the Gori under his feet. "Hey, don't run, didn't you say you're vulnerable? Then what are you afraid of?" Red Skull's face turned redder with anger. He struggled hard to get rid of Gori's hold, but this slowed down his dodge. Taro Gori rushed to the front and took the opportunity to throw Red Skull to the ground with an ultra thumb. Red Skull's physical fitness was several times that of G3 armor. Facing the bull's charge like an ultra bomb, he didn't fall at all, but just took a few steps back. But Gori's goal had been achieved, which further restricted Red Skull's movements. In a blink of an eye, he was surrounded by the remaining Gori. "Taku, come and fight with arms. Taku, come and fight with headlock. Taku, come and fight with feet grabbing. Chap, ultra arms. Chap, ultra body lock. Chap, ultra feet grabbing." The 6 Gori changed their offensive and rushed over from all directions, firmly restraining Red Skull in the posture of a dark wizard. Although the Red Skull's punching power alone is greater than the kicking power of Kamen Rider G3, it is inferior to the full body strength of G3's armor, and each Gao Li corresponds to a part of his body. Taro Gao Li grabbed the Red Skull's left leg instead. Gao Li grabbed the Red Skull's right leg. Jack Gao Li hugged the Red Skull's left hand. 7 Gao Li hugged the Red Skull's right hand. The first generation Gao Li was responsible for locking the Red Skull's head. Shafulin Gao Li trapped the Red Skull's torso from behind in a strongman locking man posture. The 6 people had a clear division of labor, and they made the Red Skull unable to move in an instant. "Asshole, let me go. I'm going to kill you." The Red Skull roared in shock and anger. He never dreamed that he would be taken down in such a brainless way. "What are you barking for? It's so noisy." The beaten Gao Li got up and slapped the Red Skull in the face. Kill you. I must kill you. I will grind you to dust." The extreme humiliation made the Red Skull furious, but he could only rage helplessly in front of the Kingdom of Light's lock technique. "Very energetic, you're shouting happily." Gao Li slapped him again and asked lightly, "If you are so energetic, why don't you tell me what secrets the Cosmic Cube has, so that I can let you suffer less before you die?" The Red Skull completely turned a deaf ear to him and stared at Gao Li with eyes full of infinite hatred. "You son of a bitch. Gua. Your mouth is so dirty, help you rinse your mouth." Before the Red Skull finished scolding, Gao Li picked up the destroyer and stabbed it into his mouth with a sword. Under the ultra high frequency cutting blade, the Red Skull's entire mouth was instantly bleeding, and the broken teeth mixed into the flesh of the tongue and flowed out with the blood. The horrible pain made the Red Skull's face twisted, but he could not say anything except screaming. "I didn't intend to learn any secrets from you. I just asked for fun. Goodbye." Gao Li shrugged and swung his sword to cut off the Red Skull's head. In the gushing blood, the Red Skull's body fell to the ground. In order to prevent him from resurrecting, Gao Li cut his head and body into pieces, more than 17 cuts. Ugh. Even with odor filtering and image shielding, it's still disgusting. And I guess soldiers are coming soon. Let's make a quick decision. Gao Li retreated several meters away in disgust and ordered the clones to act separately. 3 went to find information, 1 went to turn off the device, 1 went to use magic, and 1 went to get the Rubik's Cube. As Gao Li expected, once the excitation device of the cosmic Rubik's Cube was turned off, its special force field would not spread so much, and the connection magic could be used smoothly. Thanks to the concerted efforts of the 3 Gao Lis, the relevant confidential research materials were almost turned over, and everything was stable and good. But at this time, an accident happened. Damn. Shafulin Gao Li cursed. This cosmic cube can't be put into the connection magic circle. Gao Li was surprised and hurried over to check. Indeed, the cosmic cube will not spread out a special force field that affects space magic when it is not excited. But its existence itself has the effect of interfering with space magic. Is it because the space gem is incompatible with space magic under different systems? Gao Li was really troubled, but it was also difficult to take it away directly. Unlike Erskine, who escaped, the cosmic cube is the top priority of the Nazis, and its importance is simply incomparable. If Gao Li really dared to run away from the base with the cosmic cube, it would definitely not be long before several divisions of troops would chase after him. There are only 6 Kamen Rider G3s that can fight at present, and they probably can't beat them. Gao Li estimated for a few seconds and decided to take it slowly. Anyway, he is currently lurking in the Hydra base, and there are plenty of opportunities to find. So before the Hydra soldiers arrived, Gory put all the information and G3 armor he had found back into the warehouse, and then removed all the copy magic. Only the bodies of Red Skull and his confidants were left there, quietly rotting and stinking. P.S. Thanks to Talent Dispatcher of all heavens for the 200-point reward. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 69 Marvel Jin. When the Hydra army heard the news and came, they saw only corpses all over the ground. Especially the Red Skull, whose death was particularly tragic. What should we do? The leading soldier captain was at a loss for a moment. Hydra had lost even its leader. Where should they go? Should they report to the Führer? Where would their future be? For some reason, he suddenly remembered the secret society called Great Shocker. At this time, a short figure walked out from behind the team. The captain knew him. It was Unim Zala, one of the scientists of Hydra. Zala resisted the nausea and took out a secret order from his arms to show it to the captain. I will take over from now on. All situations here are not allowed to be spread outside. There is no need to panic. Mr. Schmidt is still safe and sound. Safe and sound. The soldier captain couldn't help but look at the body of the Red Skull again. It was almost unrecognizable after being cut. How could it be safe and sound? Zora didn't want to explain too much, so he waved his hand and said, "Obey the order." Yes. Long live Hydra. The Hydra soldiers saluted in unison and retreated from the breach in unison. When Zora was the only one left, he breathed a sigh of relief and looked at the Red Skull with a complicated look. Although it has not been tested, I hope it will really work. Otherwise, I will also turn to Great Shocker. I didn't expect that it would cause such a big thing. In the Hydra subsidiary base far away from the headquarters, a huge instrument automatically started the moment the Red Skull's heart stopped beating. If someone was here, they would see that there was a huge container in the center of the instrument, in which there was actually a Frankenstein with a mechanical and flesh sewn together. But if you look closely, the body of this suspected Frankenstein is 3 points similar to the Red Skull, and it opened its eyes soon. Damn Great Shocker. I will avenge this hatred and humiliation in this life. RRRR. The angry roar rose with the bubbles of the culture medium, and there was actually the spiritual consciousness of the Red Skull. In fact, the Red Skull's peculiarity is not only that he is the first super soldier in history. Before this, the Red Skull accidentally came into contact with a special experimental gas that could not be replicated during a fake death. The gas caused the Red Skull's spirit to mutate, possessing the characteristics of eternal immortality, and it can also allow the spirit to be converted in different carriers. This special mental power, which can be called a superpower, also brought the Red Skull a strong sixth sense, which is the biggest reason why he can avoid Gore's sneak attack. In a parallel universe, the Red Skull even took away Professor X's body and used this ability to exchange brains with him to obtain all the telepathic power. However, Germany during World War II was not as developed as later generations in science. Even with many black technologies, it was difficult to create a completely new body 100% perfectly. Therefore, this body was first mechanically transformed by Zala, which in a sense, can be regarded as super ascension, and it is stronger than pure humans in many functions. With a crisp click, the Red Skull smashed the container with a punch of his mechanical arm and walked out slowly with his feet on the culture medium. He operated the dashboard, called Zora from the headquarters base, and took out the commonly used human skin mask and put it on his face. Mr. Schmidt, you really succeeded in resurrecting. Zora looked at this scene in great shock. The original Red Skull's backup resurrection plan always existed only in the imagination and had never been truly implemented. But now the Red Skull really crossed the life and death in front of him, which is a great feat that touches the realm of God. Isn't that a matter of course? The Red Skull snorted. I have evolved into a god, naturally transcending life and death, and will be immortal like Hydra. By the way, have you brought the serum I asked you to bring? I have prepared the supporting instruments, and it depends on you to help me operate it next. Zora nodded. No problem. Although the old guy Erskine has escaped, the batch of super soldier serum that was sealed before is still there, and I have brought it for you. The Red Skull's expression became even uglier when he heard it, and the veins on his forehead bulged. How dare you run away, Erskine, that bastard. There are more and more traitors in Hydra. His Hydra was infiltrated by Great Shocker like a sieve. There was even a moment when Red Skull felt helpless. It seemed that there were traitors all around him, and there was no one trustworthy at all. It was just like the Japanese Sake Brewery organization in the next universe. Too sad. Suddenly, Red Skull seemed to remember something and asked again, by the way, there was such a big commotion in the base. How is Rigido Noah? Zora frowned, but still said truthfully, according to the surveillance, Rigido Noah seemed very honest throughout the whole process. At most, he looked at it curiously, because of the alarm. Apart from that, there was no extra behavior, and there was no sign of wanting to escape. Red Skull's tightly locked brows stretched out, and nodded very satisfied. It seems that Rigido Noah is really loyal to Hydra, and can be trusted. After all, this level of turmoil in the Hydra headquarters has not been seen for many years. If Rigido really has bad intentions, he will definitely not miss this golden opportunity. The reality is that Rigido did not take the opportunity to do anything, which means that he has completely passed the test. No, it should be said that Rigido is more worthy of Red Skull's trust than many Hydra cadres. It's not easy. Red Skull felt sad for some reason. Seeing the Hydra cadres around him rebelling one after another was really too much of a blow to Red Skull. Rigido must be reused. I must promote him well. Red Skull secretly made up his mind. Fortunately, he is not without loyal ministers around him. After using the super soldier serum to regain superhuman physique, Red Skull came out again to stabilize the army and stabilize the increasingly chaotic Hydra. Then, the first thing Red Skull did was to meet Gory in person. When he first saw Red Skull, Gory's heart suddenly jumped. Damn. He's dead. What's going on? Didn't I finish the knife hard enough? However, Gory's acting skills were pretty good. He immediately smoothly transitioned the shock he revealed in an instant to surprise. Great. Mr. Schmidt, you're fine. I heard the alarm in the base for so long, and I was worried that something might have happened. Red Skull smiled respectfully and poured Gory a cup of coffee himself. Don't panic, Mr. Noah. We just found some small bugs before. The Hydra base is the safest place in the world. As long as I'm in charge, no one can threaten Hydra. Gory felt sick in his heart, but pretended to agree with Red Skull on the surface. I wonder what Mr. Schmidt wants me to do. Red Skull said seriously. In view of Mr. Noah's outstanding performance this month, I decided to invite you to serve as the director of the weapons and biological departments, and lead all scientific research tasks. Gory fell into deep thought. This month's outstanding performance? Do you mean slacking off, or developing day shocker? Chapter 70. Remarks on the release. I have already written 160,000 words. Before I know it, after 12 noon tomorrow, the book will be officially available. I would like to thank my editor, Mr. Greenbean, and all the readers who have supported me all the time. So I will update it as soon as it is available tomorrow, with 12,000 words. Please give me the first order. Please give me the first order. Meow. Thank you everyone. Meow. Chapter 71. Immortal Golden Eyes. while Gao Li was promoted, getting a salary increase, and getting rich. Gao Li number 3 took Dr. Erskine to the warehouse after several rounds of transfers. This is a temporary base of the Great Shocker. Although it is still very simple, the equipment and facilities are quite complete. Please hide here for a while to do research. Dr. Erskine. Gao Li number 3 introduced politely, and Erskine nodded in understanding. After all, this is still in Germany, belonging to the headquarters of Hydra, and it is indeed unlikely to build a luxurious base. Then he took another closer look. Wow, these facilities and equipment are not quite complete, but not only complete, but also very familiar. Aren't these all the equipment and facilities in the Hydra headquarters? However, Erskine changed his mind and thought that all the members of the Great Shocker who were currently exposed were former Hydra cadres, so it was no wonder that all the facilities and equipment came from Hydra. What research do you Shocker want me to do? Number 3 Gao Li opened his mouth and said, we were pressed for time just now, so I didn't have time to tell you. In fact, the rigid owner you wanted us to rescue has already been one of ours. He is researching a biotechnology for Great Shocker. He should have asked you some questions in the past. You just need to help him optimize and improve this technology. This is the most important task. Erskine recalled and asked. Although his questions were very fragmented, it seems that the overall picture of the technology is a set of solutions to transform and enhance human capabilities. I should be right, right? Number 3 Gao Li was a little surprised when he heard this. It turns out that super geniuses in any era should not be underestimated. Erskine actually vaguely saw the general outline of Shocker's transformation technology based on those marginal questions. Since Erskine was now under his command, number 3 Gori no longer concealed the truth and admitted, indeed, this is the key to the evolution of all mankind and their own happiness. If that's the case. Erskine hesitated. Why not use my super soldier serum? I'm almost done with the most perfect super soldier serum. Number 3 Gori shook his head and said, no, even if your super soldier serum is completed, there is still a biggest flaw that has not been solved. It can't be called perfect at all. Since there was a plan to abduct Erskine, Gori naturally thought about the problem of super soldier serum. But it didn't take long for Gori to cross the super soldier serum off the list because he really couldn't accept the side effects of super soldier serum. However, as a scientist, even a gentleman like Erskine found it difficult to accept criticism of his masterpiece, and he immediately frowned unhappily. Are you worried that the serum will make people look like John Schmidt? Don't worry, I said it has been improved to perfection, so it will naturally not change the appearance. Number 3 Gori said lightly, then may I ask Dr. Erskine, does the perfect super soldier serum still have the function of making a good personality better and a bad personality worse? Erskine was stunned and nodded. Indeed it still has the function, but it is not a defect. The super soldier serum will enhance and strengthen everything about the user, naturally including the personality mentioned above. This is the most essential function of the super soldier serum, so Erskine does not think it is a side effect, and he cannot eliminate it. No, that's the problem. Number 3 Gao Li explained, almost all human beings have both good and evil. This is human nature. Otherwise, they are not even human beings. There is basically no absolute saint who has only good thoughts, and no evil thoughts, nor is there an absolute evil person who has only evil thoughts, and no good thoughts. Perhaps you want to give an example that there are indeed great evil people like John Schmidt in the world. But the good thoughts I'm talking about do not simply refer to kindness, but all personality and thoughts that tend towards the concept of good. Even John Schmidt must have a very small part of this character. For example, he must be better to his confidants than to ordinary subordinates. For example, although he is not very loyal, at least he is working for Hitler. For example, even if it is mainly to satisfy his own ambitions, he will definitely do his best for the development of Hydra. Number 3 Gao Li glanced at Erskine who was lost in thought, and continued, so do you understand, evil thoughts are vice versa. No matter how kind a person is, it is impossible for him to have no thoughts that tend to be bad. Erskine was silent. After thinking hard for a while, he retorted, but John Schmidt's good part should have been enhanced, but he became more evil after using the super soldier serum. That's true. If a very kind person becomes a super soldier, his evil thoughts will increase, but his good thoughts will also increase. Continuing to suppress evil thoughts is almost the same as the opposite of John Schmidt's situation. However, how many people in the world are as extremely evil as he is, and as extremely kind as we imagine? Number 3. Gao Li pointed at himself. At least I'm not one of the two, just an ordinary person in the middle. Ordinary people whose good and evil ratios are not too different occupy an overwhelming number in human society. They may not be able to use their enhanced good thoughts to continue to suppress their enhanced evil thoughts. Gao Li's meaning is very simple. For example, an ordinary person's good thoughts are manifested as giving a few dollars to beggars when they meet them, and their evil thoughts are manifested as when they are completely irritated or their lives are threatened, they can't help but hit people, which basically conforms to the three views of ordinary people. Then once both good and evil are amplified, good thoughts will become giving all the money to beggars, and evil thoughts will become when being completely irritated or life is threatened, one cannot help but kill people. Although good thoughts usually have the upper hand, if one is completely irritated or life is threatened, one will instantly become a dangerous element that kills people. Because when humans are extremely angry, evil thoughts will undoubtedly have the upper hand. This is also a side effect that Gori cannot tolerate. If it is used on himself, what is the difference between that and modifying and brainwashing his character? It can be said that it is equivalent to distorting Gori's original will. So I suggest that you give up the super soldier serum. Before this problem can be completely solved, it is even better not to let the super soldier serum flow out to any force. Seeing that Erskine gradually figured it out, and his mood became extremely low, Gori could only pat him on the shoulder and give him advice. After all, human hearts are the most unpredictable. You have no way to be 100% sure that the user of the serum is a saint, and if he deceives you through disguise, then his cunning and insidious character will only be worse after being amplified by the serum. After being persuaded, Erskine began to honestly help Gao Li push the optimization progress of the transformation technology. In a blink of an eye, more than 2 months have passed, including the development time and the early stage. Gao Li has been in the Marvel world for half a year. Looking back at the original goal he wanted to achieve, with the assistance of various confidential data on Hydra's research on the Cosmic Cube, Gao Li successfully made a breakthrough in energy and materials, and upgraded Kamen Rider G3 to Kamen Rider G3X. Of course, due to the limitations of the era of process technology, there is no G3X armor with such high intelligence AI assistance, but even so, it is very strong. Compared with Kamen Rider G3, Kamen Rider G3X not only has a significant improvement in punching and kicking power, but the perceived weight of the wearer is also 15 kilograms lighter than the G3 armor. On this basis, the strength and hardness of Kamen Rider G3X are 5 times higher than before. Although the fatigue index of the wearer has increased by 30%, the fighting time has become twice that of G3 armor. However, the increase in fatigue index means that it is more difficult for Gao Li to use G3X armor to fight. After all, he is a scientific researcher who lacks exercise. Originally, he would be exhausted and out of breath when wearing G3 armor, and his back would ache after fighting for a long time. Now G3X armor is undoubtedly more deadly. Gao Li can only hope for the shocker cyborg technology that he and Erskine have cooperated on. With the joining of Erskine, the progress is indeed rapid and the results are gratifying. But, the facts have proved that even a genius like Gao Li has no clue about things, and it is difficult for another genius to handle them. This improvement plan has reached a deadlock, and is stuck in the middle, and can't move forward. Sure enough, it is still limited by the times. Even using Hydra's facilities and equipment cannot meet all research and development needs. Gao Li sat in his comfortable office of a senior Hydra official and sighed helplessly. According to his and Erskine's research, the two major side effects of shocker transformation technology, regular backlash and excessive changes to the original body, are derived from the core concept of the technology. That is, the advantages of other species are proportionally magnified to human scale, and then transplanted into the human body to obtain enhanced capabilities. Since other species are to be integrated, there will naturally be backlash like rejection, which is more difficult to solve than rejection, and naturally it is no longer a pure human, with too many transformation characteristics. I tried my best. At present, the technology has been improved to improve people's physique, but there will be no backlash at all, and the body is basically the same as before. This is my limit. Gao Li still remembers that when Erskine said these words to him, his eyes were full of dense bloodshot, with a pair of heavy dark circles under his eyes, and his hair was several times thinner than before. So the reality is that, if you don't want those side effects to occur, you must limit the improvement to a certain range. That is, you can't modify too much. Sorry, even if you squeeze me dry, there is no other way. At least under certain extreme values, the safety problem has been perfectly solved, then my mission is completed. Gao Li also knew the reason, and was afraid that Erskine would die on the spot, so he quickly let him go back to sleep. Now the trusted Gao Li can freely enter and exit the Hydra base, but for the sake of safety, he still left a copy to pretend to be himself, and the main body changed his appearance and sneaked away to the warehouse. While Erskine was sleeping, Gao Li planned to experience the modification for the first time. Compared with Xiao's shocker modification technology, the first's shocker modification technology is obviously more modern, and it doesn't even require a second person to operate. The modification operation can be performed by mechanical automation alone. With the joint improvement of the two super geniuses, the effect is of course extraordinary, and the whole process feels almost like a minimally invasive surgery. When Gao Li came down from the operating table, he thought he had an illusory dream and a trance. From the outside, the whole body is not much different from the past. I'd better do a comprehensive examination. Gao Li muttered to himself while looking in the mirror. The only change he could see was that he had more muscles and his body became more symmetrical. Half a day later, Erskine woke up and saw Gao Li looking at the data in front of the instrument. "Hey, Rigido. Good morning, Abraham." Gao Li greeted him. "Want to come and see the results of the transformation?" Erskine took a long time to react. "Oh, by the way, you are the first person to undergo the transformation surgery in the plan. Have you completed all the tests?" Gao Li nodded. "Well, the normal functions of the heart, lungs, reproduction and other organisms are intact, and even become much stronger. Somata healthy. Punching force 461 kilograms. Pulling force 542 kilograms. Full equipment bench press 619 kilograms. 100 meter sprint 9.37 seconds. It can be said that every item of my physical fitness has reached the peak of human beings." Gao Li still refers to the modern world record. In fact, the person who has the world's first punching force may not be as good as the Olympic athletes in the 100 meter sprint, but Gao Li is a perfect hexagonal warrior. This is because at the beginning of the improvement, Gao Li's concept was absolute balance without shortcomings, so he did not fuse only one kind of organism like the original technology. The change Gao Li made was to extract all the advantages of various animals in nature and combine them into one in himself. In other words, it is just as the saying goes, the eyes of an eagle, the ears of a wolf, the speed of a leopard, and the strength of a bear. It can actually reach this level. Although it is still not as good as the super soldier serum, it has no effect on personality and thoughts. Erskine suddenly lost all sleepiness and came over excitedly, but Gory shook his head. "It's too early to be surprised, Abraham. The power of this transformation technology is far more than that. I will show it to you in person." Gory looked at Erskine head on. Just when Erskine was confused, he suddenly found that his pupils suddenly became golden. In an instant, Erskine's back instinctively felt cold, and he had a natural reaction, as if he was stared at by a top predator. His body actually fell into a state of stiffness. It was not until Gory stopped looking at him that Erskine slowly recovered, and his whole body was already sweating profusely. What was that just now? I subconsciously felt that I was being watched by some beast, and I could be torn to death at any time. Erskine's words were not exaggerated. He felt as if Gory's eyes were hiding a lion just now. "I named it the immortal golden eye," Gory explained. Once I light up my golden eye, my explosive power will increase dramatically, and I can get twice the test data in a short period of time. In nature, humans have the best endurance, but their explosive power is not as good as many wild animals. This ability comes from the explosive power shared by animals. Double? Erskine was stunned. That is, nearly a ton of punching power, more than a ton of pulling and bench press, and 100 meters in 5 seconds? This has officially surpassed humans, and entered the realm of Little Superman. Gory, who had completed the transformation, returned to Hydra, and sat at his desk to ponder. Obviously, Hydra has basically nothing to gain, except the cosmic cube. If the Red Skull was a sheep, Gory would have fleeced a lot of it by now. It's not bad to fleece fascism. Hydra's instruments and equipment can no longer meet my needs, so the next stage of the goal is. Gory turned half a circle in his chair and looked at a large world map on his back. Africa, Wakanda, HMM. You want to lead a team to Africa to capture experimental subjects? Red Skull looked at the application in front of him and asked Gory with a little surprise. Yes, Mr. Schmidt, I want to capture a group of black people for experiments. Gory answered without blushing. You want to do human experiments? Red Skull frowned. Then Hydra can provide you with a large number of experimental subjects. Why go to Africa to capture them? Gory pretended to be disdainful and said, it's very simple, because those primitive black people are more suitable to be experimental subjects. In addition to being slaves, the most suitable place for them is to stay on the test bench. After all, black slaves are simple-minded and well-developed. The only thing worth praising is their strong bodies, so they can be used for experiments, and they are more durable as experimental subjects. You have to know that different individuals have different conditions, which will lead to inaccurate final data, so it is the best solution to do more experiments on the same individual as much as possible. Gory is not afraid of Red Skull's suspicion, because, as long as you behave more extreme than him, he will not doubt that you are not extreme enough. Red Skull was convinced, and even felt that Rigido's discrimination against black people was a bit too extreme. But on second thought, Red Skull thought it was normal. Now is the era of World War II. Although slavery has been abolished, even in the United States, there are still many people who think that black people are not human beings at all, but just slaves in human skin. Not to mention a crazy scientist like Rigido who doesn't take human life seriously. As the leader of the Nazi organization, Red Skull is naturally a racist, and he immediately nodded in agreement. Indeed, that group of blacks only has these few advantages left. But, why do you want to lead the team yourself this time? I can send my subordinates to do it for you. No, 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 that way I won't be able to catch satisfactory experimental subjects. Gory shook his finger. Primitive livestock like black slaves must be tested on the spot to confirm that they meet the needs of my experiment. Otherwise, if you catch a lot of black slaves who don't meet the requirements, then they will be basically useless except for selling them in the slave market to make back their capital, or whipping them with whips for fun. If Hydra has a mine, they can be thrown into labor. Red Skull was very satisfied with Gory's attitude. As a noble cadre of the Nazi organization Hydra, he had to have the idea that the Aryan race was supreme and other races were scum. Among the scum, there were also different levels. For example, Hitler hated black people very much. In the isolation stage in Germany a few years ago, black people were treated worse than Jews. They were deprived of their civil rights, could not join the Wehrmacht, could not become civil servants, did not have the right to vote, were expelled from the country, or sent to prison, and even had to be forcibly sterilized. Even the mixed-race children of blacks and other races were not spared by the Nazis. They were either deprived of their German citizenship, or sent to scientific research institutions such as the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute of Human Genetics. Therefore, Gory's statement that he wanted to use blacks as experimental subjects was simply a justifiable reason in the Red Skull's view. Later, when there were fewer blacks in Germany, and they had no reproductive ability, they were not tossed around so many times, but the remaining black children were still not allowed to join the Hitler Youth League, and black music and black culture were completely banned. Then which African country are you going to catch blacks? Gory pointed to the world map on the wall and said, let's go to Wakanda. Wakanda? The Red Skull recalled that it seemed to be the poorest and most backward agricultural country in Africa, and it was indeed a very suitable target. Even if there was a big fuss in the local area and a large number of people were killed or injured, it would not cause any splashes. Okay, you lead the team yourself. Red Skull immediately decided. He did not doubt that Rigido had ulterior motives or wanted to take the opportunity to run away. First, Rigido was one of the few people he trusted most at present. Second, Rigido was just a scientist after all. He did not have the power as strong as him. What could he do alone? Those Hydra members sent there were ultimately obedient to Red Skull. With their surveillance and following, Rigido could not turn the world upside down. Gory, who was preparing to go out, did not expect it to be so smooth. He was deeply moved by Red Skull's trust in him. Gory was determined to repay Red Skull as the most loyal subordinate. He even helped Hydra to be the enemy of the world. Well, let's start with Wakanda. Due to Wakanda's isolationism, there is very little information about its domestic situation, but common sense such as the location of the capital has been circulated. According to Gory's investigation, the capital of Wakanda is called Bernanzana. If you want to choose a city as a target, what is better than the capital? After all, the capital is an important place for a country, and it is also a gathering place for politics, economy, and talents. Everything that Gory wants can be found here, and invading here is more likely to anger Wakanda. From the map, next to Wakanda is an African country called Mahanda. It just so happens that Bernanzana is close to the border of Wakanda, almost next to Mahanda. Therefore, Gory immediately made a decision to lead the team, to sneak in from Mahanda and head straight for the capital of Wakanda. The power of Hydra is indeed good. With the highest support of the Red Skull, they easily touched in and hid in the forest outside Bernanzana. It's not that Wakanda is seriously watered, but that Wakanda has always deliberately shown weakness to the outside, resulting in the image of an extremely poor and backward African country on the periphery of its territory. Acting comes at a price. Wakanda's borders are basically undefended, of course. This is also because Wakanda is arrogant and self-righteous, and believes that the scoundrels cannot pose any threat to their developed cities. Seeing that the plan is going smoothly, Gao Li is secretly excited. My harem. Bah, the warehouse can finally be filled with new people, that's right. Gao Li is just coveting Wakanda's equipment. Not to mention anything else, the AI chip of Kamen Rider G3X alone cannot be manufactured due to the process technology. You know, Kamen Rider G3X's AI is too strong, causing the wearer's body to not keep up, so it must be downgraded. Ordinary people's bodies cannot withstand its strength, but Gao Li can. He is now barely a little Superman. If he can perfectly cooperate with the command of AI, it is hard to imagine how terrifying the combat power of Kamen Rider G3X will burst out. P.S. I have created a questions group number 673,414,839. If you are interested, you can join it. Chapter 72 Solo Fight in Wakanda. Inside the Hydra armored vehicle, Gory put his hands behind his back and gave a speech to the Hydra soldiers in line. I'm the Minister of Armament and Biology, Dr. Noah. I'm here to supervise you. Senior cadres like me are your best big brothers. The Hydra soldiers felt a little subtle when they heard this. In fact, they are an elite force directly under the Red Skull, and the secret order they received is to secretly supervise Rigido Noah. This is completely the opposite. As expected, he is just a scientific researcher, so simple that he doesn't even know that he is under surveillance. If you don't understand something, you can ask me. Gory continued loudly, I will tell you kindly. Do you understand? I understand. The Hydra soldiers answered in unison, but Gory shook his head in dissatisfaction. Can't hear. Didn't you eat? I understand. This time they roared loudly, and Gory nodded in appreciation. Good. Very energetic. Then next, I'll show you two big treasures. After that, Gory opened the briefcase he carried with him and took out a silver pistol and a black square box. This pistol is a Victory Hyper gun that I made based on the energy data of the Cosmic Cube weapon. It is as powerful as the laser rifle you are using now. Gao Li said as he retreated to the corner with the gun in his hand. The whole process was smooth, natural, and silent. In fact, this Victory Hypergun is a special version of the Cosmic Cube. Rather than saying that the Victory Hypergun has been specialized, it is better to say that its bullets have been specialized. That is, the barrier bullets currently loaded. The principle of the barrier bullet of the Victory Hypergun is to analyze a specific energy wavelength to create a barrier that can randomly reflect the energy of this wavelength. Therefore, the energy data of the Cosmic Cube is a great help. Gao Li can create a special shield for himself to defend against the energy of the space gem. Drive Noah, why did you develop this? The captain of the Hydra team said with a smile. Our laser rifles are enough. Of course, because this gun can not only kill people, but also protect the user. Gao Li fired a shot before he finished speaking. This surprised everyone, and they all subconsciously raised their weapons slightly. But they soon discovered that the pistol had only shot out a translucent barrier blocking Gao Li in front of him. Next, I'm going to introduce the laser mother box. Gao Li pointed at the black box behind the barrier. Although it's called that, it's just a bomb that uses the energy of the Cosmic Cube. Bomb? The team leader was stunned, and his mind instantly combined Gao Li's strange actions before and after, and his face changed immediately. Lie down. As expected, Gao Li just finished speaking and detonated the laser mother box. In an instant, the blue energy of the Cosmic Cube violently shot out, like a Gatling gun firing lasers in all directions. It was useless for the Hydra soldiers present to lie down, because those lasers shot the armored vehicles like sieves, and they were naturally riddled with holes and wounds. Only Gao Li behind the barrier was safe and sound, wiping his sweat and breathing a sigh of relief. Fortunately, the plan succeeded in one go. I was a little nervous during the process. After getting rid of all the Hydra soldiers who followed him, Gao Li started his invasion plan. Night magic has the convenience of surpassing all the technologies of this era in this regard. Gao Li copied several of his clones and started to act. He first sneaked into a small village near the capital of Wakanda, knocked out a few black people, removed the authentication bracelets and other equipment, and then let the clones disguise themselves as them, and use the authentication bracelets to enter the city. As soon as Gao Li entered Berninzana, he scattered like wild horses to find out the information he wanted to know. It can only be said that Wakanda deserves to have world-leading technology. Although it was during the Second World War, the scenery in the city was similar to the 21st century before Gao Li crossed over. Gao Li mainly wanted to find the location of the research institute, and for this purpose he also made up for the Hausa and Yoruba languages, which are two of the three main languages of Wakanda. He only needs to find the sentences he wants to use in advance, and then repeatedly strengthen the training. After a while, he can practice without an accent at all, of course, only those sentences that have been prepared. Even so, Gao Li was not a native of Wakanda, and many of his habits were slightly different from those of the locals. In addition, his behavior of snooping around was very suspicious, and soon attracted the attention of the Wakanda Intelligence Agency. The Wakanda Intelligence Agency is called Pride, which means proud and proud. It is said that its strength is stronger than the CIA of the United States. Gao Li is not a professional agent, so it is only a matter of time before they find him. After a while, one of Gao Li's clones was blocked in the alley. Please come with us, a suspicious outsider. Gao Li looked calmly, with a tall black man in front and a strong black man behind, which can be said to be a man in front and behind. What if I refuse? If you refuse, we can only use some violence to ask you to come over. The two intelligence agents all looked gloomy, and their already dark faces became even darker. As if to prove that what they said was true, they also took out two telescopic high-tech spears that flashed with green light. Seeing this, Gao Li was also stunned for a few seconds, then smiled and shook his head. I like this about you, Wakanda. No matter how advanced you are, you still like high-tech fights. This is a characteristic of Wakanda. They are all martial and disdain to use firearms. Their first reaction when encountering an enemy is close combat. And it just so happens that Gao Li is least afraid of hand-to-hand combat now. Come on, let me show you what it means to rotate a magnetic field of 1 million horses. Gao Li took off his shirt heroically. Even if he was a clone, he still copied the superhuman physique of the original body. The two agents were stunned at the same time. They didn't expect that this unknown outsider was so full of martial virtues and seemed very confident in his skills. But when they were tracking him before, they saw that his steps and body movements were extremely amateurish, and they were full of flaws. Could it be that they made a mistake? Both of them have extremely high professional qualities. Although they were puzzled, they still attacked without hesitation. Come on. Gao Li let out a long roar, and with the ultimate human reaction speed, he grabbed the two people's spears with his backhand, and then pulled them towards the center. What? The two agents immediately felt an irresistible force coming, and their bodies staggered and collided with each other. Just as they were frightened and wanted to retreat, they were faced with a pair of burning golden eyes. Eternal golden eyes. In an instant, the two couldn't help but recall the fear of being stared at by wild beasts such as wolves, leopards, tigers, and lions when they were training in the wild, when they were young. Before they could react, their vision was flooded by fists as big as sandbags, and their eyes went black, and they fainted on the ground in severe pain. Although I have no skills, I can still work miracles with great force. Gao Li rubbed his wrist and looked into the distance. He knew that he was exposed, but fortunately, the location of the Wakanda National Research Institute had been confirmed, and the next step was to go straight to Huanglang. Gao Li's plan was simple. How to forcibly invade a country's important place in the capital of a high-tech country. The answer is to rely on the space magic that Wakanda's technology cannot currently match, and the human wave tactics of Kamen Rider G3X. How Kamen Rider G3X will face Black Panther, Gao Li can't make a conclusion yet, but fighting against any Wakandan except Black Panther, he will definitely have a crushing advantage. It just so happens that Gao Li has more than one G3X armor. In addition to upgrading the original 7 G3 armors to G3X armors, Gao Li also took the time to build an extra G3X armor as an emergency backup. He is no longer the glorious Ultraman 6 brothers. He is now the Ultraman 8 brothers. As my physique improves, it is no longer my physical strength that limits my use of the G3X armor, but electricity. Although the battery life has been improved, the battery power will drop rapidly if there is a fierce battle. Gao Li quickly went through his arrangements, so the 7 clones will first transform into Hydra Carders, then dress up as Kamen Rider G3X, and then attack the research institutes from 7 different directions. When the G3X armor runs out of power, it will be sent back to the warehouse for charging using connection magic, and the clone that has been transformed will dissolve the magic on the spot and disappear. After charging, the clone in the warehouse will open the magic circle and send the armor back. At this time, other clones that are still active will receive the message and use copy magic to create clones, so that new transformers will be available, so that they can continue to relay and fight alternately. Perfect. That's right. Gao Li's goal this time, in addition to confiscating Wakanda's instruments and equipment, is to put the blame on Hydra's head. A mature organization should learn to take the blame for loyal members. Anyway, it's Hydra who is backing him up, and it's Hydra who is supporting him. Gao Li didn't lie. Wasn't it Hydra that sent him to Wakanda? Right, just point JPG. So 7 Kamen Rider G3X's rushed to the institute in a mighty manner and successfully broke into the interior with the newly armed GA-04 antares from the periphery. Antares can launch a grappling hook connected to a solid titanium cable with a maximum range of 100 meters. Its strength can even temporarily bind monsters and block their movements. At this time, Gao Li fixed the grappling hook on the surface of the building, and he could move like Spider-Man, directly bypassing the defense and firepower outside. Of course, their whereabouts were immediately discovered, and the National Research Institute suddenly sounded a shrill alarm. What? The National Research Institute was invaded? The news was quickly reported to Wakanda's highest administrative body, the Elder Tribal Council, and it happened to be when they were holding an internal meeting. Almost every elder looked unbelievable. It has been so many years. Wakanda has never encountered such an exaggerated enemy that invaded the hinterland. However, they were not vegetarians. They reacted immediately with anger and issued orders. Immediately send all Dora's guards to take down the foreign invaders. Every elder was shocked and angry. They didn't understand why someone would target this place. Has the long-term tactic of showing weakness to the outside world failed? They urgently need to capture the enemy and find out the reason before they can feel at ease. Yes. The subordinates quickly took action and conveyed the order to General Neil, who led the Dora's guards. I understand. She looked deep. After informing His Majesty the King, we will all go out immediately. The Dora's guards are an elite force directly under the King of Wakanda. Its members are all women. In fact, they have the role of candidates for the King's harem and are political tools for marriages among major tribes. However, it must be admitted that thanks to the martial spirit of the whole people, the whole country also believes that the Queen must be the strongest woman in the country, so the Dora's guards as candidates are masters per capita. It can even be said that their force is higher than that of the regular army of Wakanda. If it is a one-on-one battle, it is highly likely that Dora's guards will win. Because of this, the Elders Tribal Council also has the right to mobilize Dora's guards to deal with sudden crises such as this one, where there is no time to mobilize the army, just like dispatching elite special forces. On the other hand, facing ordinary Wakanda guards, Gori simply kills gods and Buddhas. Bang bang. The anesthetic dose of each bullet has been adjusted to a very small amount. Even if he is hit by more than 10 or 20 bullets, he should not die, probably. Gao Li thought, while sweeping the enemy. He has only experimented with mice so far, and has never tried it on human bodies. Bang. Suddenly, Gao Li's head tilted violently due to the huge kinetic energy. It was obviously hit by the sniper of Wakanda. However, in terms of the lethality of Wakanda's individual weapons, it is not as good as the Hydra weapons with the Cosmic Cube as the foundation. What's more, the G3X armor is upgraded from the G3 armor in terms of defense. Gao Li was completely unscathed. Take mine ammo Gatling and transcend. Gao Li turned the direction of the three-headed dog Vulcan cannon and immediately suppressed the sniper so that he could not raise his head. He also took the opportunity to continue to go deeper and soon left the sniper's field of vision. One Gao Li was so efficient, and the 7 Gaolas who cooperated with each other were even more efficient. It didn't take long for them to roughly figure out the distribution of instruments and equipment in the institute. Just when one of the Gao Li was about to move the armor happily, a spear suddenly flew at high speed and nailed it directly on the outside of the armor. At the same time, 4 more scimitars attacked in an arc, and in an instant, the 3-headed dog Vulcan cannon was cut into pieces and unusable. Fuck. Gao Li was shocked. You know, the armor strength of G3X is 5 times that of G3 due to the new materials and special triple structure. If he had just changed into G3 armor, he would have been stabbed through the heart in an instant. This is the legendary vibranium. It really lives up to its reputation. Gao Li pulled out the spear with lingering fear and carefully observed the spearhead. It was indeed a metal material that he had never seen before. At this time, 5 bold black women had surrounded him, all holding vibranium spears in their hands. Invader. In the name of General Neil of Dora's personal guard, I order you to give up resistance immediately and surrender. Otherwise, I will not guarantee your safety. General Neil pointed at Gori from a distance. If you resist, you will be executed on the spot. Gori pulled out the melee knife GK06 Unicorn and pointed back. Come on if you can. I declare in advance that I'm a true feminist. Even if the enemy is a woman, I will not show mercy. Without any extra nonsense, the two sides immediately started fighting. The elders of the tribal council paid close attention to this. Each guard had a real-time live broadcast device on them to facilitate them to check the battle situation. But after watching for a while, the elders were a little surprised and doubtful. Huh, this invader is so strange. Yeah, it seems that he can't fight at all. All the moves are random, without any trace of training. Originally, according to everyone's assumption, at least a well-trained secret special forces dared to invade Wakanda. But Gori completely overturned their predictions. Gao Li had no skills at all, and relied on brute force to suppress the enemy. He was outnumbered 5 at once, and within a few seconds, several holes were poked in his armor. However, these holes were only the size of a finger, so it was difficult to penetrate them. Instead, Gao Li seized the opportunity and hit him with a punch. A member of the Royal Guard flew backwards several meters on the spot. The punch of more than 2 tons was no joke. If the Royal Guard's uniforms were not mixed with vibranium that could absorb kinetic energy, it is very likely that his bones and internal organs would be broken with one punch. What kind of material is that? It's so hard. Neil was secretly surprised when she saw this. She had never seen any metal that could have such a strong defense against vibranium. The key is that the armored man in front of them is really strong. Although they surrounded and beat the armored man in a special formation, making him take more beatings and fight back less. Once he was hit by the armored man, it would be difficult to move for a long time. As she was distracted, she was kicked by Gori. Although she managed to block it with her vibranium spear, she still fell several times uncontrollably. Everyone, disperse for the time being. Neil stood up and gave orders loudly, enduring the severe pain all over her body. She used to practice with the King of Wakanda, the Black Panther Chaka, and could feel that Gori's strength was almost the same as Chaka's after he held back. If so, then close combat would be overwhelming for them. Although Dora's guards have a technical advantage, the reason why fighting competitions have to be heavyweight is that the crushing force can achieve the goal of breaking the cleverness with force. Are you going to run away? Gori saw them retreating and frowned at the antares in his hand. The edge of the blade of antares began to curl due to multiple collisions with vibranium. The attacks that he expected to stun his opponent often did not work, as if most of the kinetic energy was absorbed by something. Is it the characteristics of vibranium? It's really tricky. Gori guessed secretly, and he was more interested in vibranium technology. We have to get back whatever we say today. Neil said loudly. Dora's guards are fighting to the death. There is no reason to run away. I advise you not to fight. This is for your life. Gao Li raised his chin and gestured. Didn't you see that all your subordinates were injured? On the other hand, except for my appearance becoming less attractive, I was not even injured at all. If we continue to fight, you will definitely lose. In fact, without the buffer protection of vibranium, Gao Li would have killed the 5 of them long ago. Neil's expression became more gloomy when she heard this. She glanced around with the corner of her eyes and saw that all 4 of her subordinates were limping. Although I don't want to admit it, we are at a disadvantage in hand-to-hand combat. Switch to throwing attacks. General Neil is not in vain. He immediately changed his tactics. The other guards took out the vibranium throwing knives and threw them. Gao Li jumped into the air without thinking, showing his exaggerated jumping ability of 20 meters in front of them for the first time. This jump was 3 or 4 stories high, and the 5 people were stunned for a moment, and all the flying knives they shot missed. The gravity potential energy of the fall increased the kinetic energy for Gao Li, and with the arm strength of Kamen Rider G3X, he slashed at Neil with lightning speed. Not good. Neil's face changed drastically, and he had no time to dodge, and could only resist, and was pressed to the ground by Gao Li. With a bang, the floor cracked, and Neil passed out with blood oozing from the corner of his mouth. Even vibranium has a limit to its kinetic energy absorption. General. The other 4 people exclaimed and rushed to support anxiously. But as the saying goes, care leads to confusion. Their formation was unstable. Gao Li relied on his armor to resist the attack, and kicked a guard member unconscious. There are 3 left. Gao Li counted down calmly, and punched them to retreat. Oops. The elders who were hiding in the palace watching the battle couldn't help but stand up. The situation changed too quickly. The Dora guards, which were originally sure to win, fell into a disadvantage in the blink of an eye. Originally, 5 people couldn't take down Gao Li together, let alone now there were only 3 left. Just half a minute later, the remaining 3 guards also broke their bones, vomited blood, and all fell unconscious. Similar battles occurred in other places. There were a total of 35 people in the Dora guards, and every 5 people surrounded a Gao Li replica. However, in front of Kamen Rider G3X, they could only hinder them. Don't dream of defeating Gao Li. The invincible Dora guards actually lost. The elders sat back in their chairs dejectedly, looking at each other in disbelief. That strange armor is so powerful. Question mark? It can even allow an amateur who can't fight to easily kill multiple top masters in the country, and they are equipped with a lot of vibranium. Unbelievable, unimaginable. In the past, they were always proud of Wakanda's world-leading technology, and it was decades ahead of the world. Now, someone slapped more advanced technology in their faces, telling them that Wakanda is just a frog in the well. Or it is slapping them in the face with an irrefutable absolute record. After a few seconds of silence, an elder woke up from his dream and said quickly notify the army and let them speed up. Inside the National Research Institute, Gao Li was about to pick up those vibranium weapons when a black shadow fell from the sky, accompanied by a furious roar. Stop. Obviously, the person who came thought that Gory was going to finish him off. Who is it? Gory was startled and was knocked away before he could react. He felt like he was hit by a truck. When he adjusted his posture and landed, he saw a sturdy figure wrapped in black armor, leaning over to check on Dora's guards. It was the King of Wakanda, T'Chaka, also known as the Black Panther. Chapter 73, Beat the King. Black Panther is merciless. Since his direct Dora guards have been dispatched, how could T'Chaka, as the king, not know? In the culture of Wakanda, the Black Panther is the patron saint of the country. The king with the identity of Black Panther must stand up when facing the enemy. Therefore, not long after the guards were dispatched, T'Chaka couldn't help but put on the Black Panther uniform and rushed to the National Research Institute. I never thought that it was only a short time and the Dora guards were defeated so neatly. T'Chaka couldn't help but be shocked. He stared at Gory and said in a deep voice, I'm the king of a country, Black Panther T'Chaka. Intruders, you might as well report your name. An unknown person is not worthy of such strength. Growing up in Wakanda, where martial arts are strong, T'Chaka certainly respects the strong, even though they are his enemies. But this was exactly what Gao Li wanted, so he smiled and said, it's okay to tell you. I come from the Great Hydra. Remember, the one who killed you was Walter Beffenbach. Walter Beffenbach? Hydra? T'Chaka raised his eyebrows. He was not so naive as to believe everything the enemy said, so he planned to verify it on the spot. As long as he knocked over the damn armored man and lifted his annoying visor, the true identity of this group of villains would naturally be exposed. I swear in the name of the Black Panther god, you will die today. T'Chaka snorted coldly and took the lead in attacking. Gao Li also threw away the GK-06 Unicorn and pulled out the more powerful GS-03 destroyer. The high-speed vibrating blade slashed it up at the first time. To Gao Li's surprise, the destroyer slashed T'Chaka's shoulder smoothly and unimpeded, as if T'Chaka had completely given up defense. Instead, he attacked fiercely like a beast, and the vibranium claws scratched the G3X armor and cracked it everywhere. Gao Li had to step back quickly and finally got rid of T'Chaka. When he looked at the destroyer's blade again, it was not only ineffective, but the destroyer didn't even hurt T'Chaka at all. Instead, several of the teeth were broken by the vibranium. All vibranium? As expected of His Majesty the King, it's really luxurious. Gao Li teased, but his heart became extremely solemn. Just from the previous confrontation, he could feel that T'Chaka's power was even higher than the G3X armor. The reality was even worse than this. T'Chaka also had skills that surpassed him, plus invincible defense and the sharpest attack. He couldn't beat him. Gao Li judged this very rationally, and the elders who practiced martial arts were even more excited. Great. His Majesty is here. With the Guardian God, all enemies are nothing to worry about. Your Majesty is the best generation of Black Panther. It's only a matter of time before the armored man is defeated. Even the martial arts rookie Gao Li could see this, and the elders would only figure it out earlier. There is no doubt that the defeat of the armored man is a foregone conclusion. It seems that you are not as strong as I thought. T'Chaka approached slowly with a gloomy face. So, are you ready to face your own death? Gory stretched his muscles and chuckled. I'm ready to counterattack. The Hydra family, it's time to come out. T'Chaka was shocked and immediately got ready for defense. He did not forget that there was more than one enemy. However, nothing happened. T'Chaka. He looked at Gory again and heard Gory cough. Sorry, maybe the family is busy. I just liven up the atmosphere. T'Chaka frowned under his mask. It seemed that the enemy was making trouble, but he didn't know why he always had a bad premonition. What are the other enemies doing? It's impossible that they are just watching from the side, right? No, we must defeat this person as soon as possible to free up our hands to deal with other invaders. T'Chaka secretly made up his mind, and in fact, his guess was not wrong. Gory was just trying to stall for time. When he judged that he was no match for Chaka, he used the G3X communication to notify other clones to speed up the transportation of equipment. Gory's original body was also working at full capacity, taking over and debugging new equipment without stopping. There are some instruments that I want that are only available here. It seems that we must defeat Black Panther. Gory glanced at the many instruments and equipment behind Chaka and sent another message to the group. First generation Gory, come and help me after you move the things. Mebius Gory, got it. Jack Gory, got it. 7 Gory, got it. Dinah Gory, okay. Jaya Gory, okay. S Gory, oh. While Gory was reading the message, he was suppressed by Chaka again. The destroyer was beaten to the point where it stopped vibrating. Gory could only take out the Hydra laser gun used for framing and shoot, but the effect was still not good. After being absorbed by the protection of vibranium, the shooting power is not much left, and Chaka himself has been strengthened by the heart-shaped grass, and his physique is comparable to that of a super soldier. He doesn't care about the pitiful remaining kinetic energy at all. On the contrary, G3X's armor is not so lucky. Chaka's attack is crazy, and it seems that he will not stop until the armor is peeled off. Gory can only adopt a retreating tactic and try to hold on for a while longer in the stormy attack of Black Panther. Despite this, Gory is still like a small boat in a storm, and it is possible to capsize at any time. I'm here. At this time, Gory shouted and arrived first. The transportation work on his side had been completed. The other Gory clones followed closely and surrounded Chaka. It seemed that the tragedy of the Red Skull was about to be staged, giving Black Panther the ultimate humiliation. Are these all the enemies? Chaka was not afraid. Come directly. The 7 Gory rushed up at the same time and rolled over and over with Chaka. At this moment, it is just like that moment. In fact, it is not so similar. First of all, Gory's side has been greatly upgraded. All members are equipped with G3X armor, and their punching and kicking power have been greatly improved. If this Linoop is used to fight the Red Skull again, there is no need to use the cheating tactics of holding hands and feet, and it is easy to win the battle. However, the enemy side has also been greatly upgraded. Chaka is not only similar to the Red Skull in strength, but also better in speed and agility. The most important thing is that his attack and defense power absolutely crush the Red Skull. The invincible attack brought by vibranium, coupled with the invincible defense, combined with the superb fighting skills of the Black Panther. For a while, Chaka was not at a disadvantage. Swish. The first generation Gory was not careful, and his mask was blown off by Chaka. Fortunately, 7 Gory and Jack Gory crossed to block the subsequent offensive. However, the camera mounted on the Black Panther armor still captured his face clearly and transmitted it to the cloud background for automatic search. Soon, the latest intelligence was transmitted back to Chaka. After comparing their appearance, it can be confirmed with 100% certainty that this person is the German officer Walter Beffenbach. And the big data AI has ruled out the possibility of disguise. It seems that this person did not lie about his identity. As for Hydra, how could Wakanda not know the information that the United States can know? Isn't Hydra the official Nazi organization of Germany? It really can match. Hydra. Chaka's anger and hatred burst out. This Hydra really dared to do this. It actually dared to set its sights on Wakanda. The army is probably already surrounding the surrounding streets. Hurry up. After all, Gory had the advantage in numbers. While beating up Chaka, the first generation Gory could still find time to urge the original body Gory. The original body of Gory has basically completed the debugging, and the only thing left is to directly manufacture the chip. Got it. Coming right away. The first generation Gory ended the call and sneaked out to see if he could free up his hands to move the equipment. But before they had taken a few steps, Chaka threw Gory as a dart, forcing the first generation Gory to stop and take him. It's so annoying to be covered in vibranium. Gory complained. After our attacks are absorbed, they are almost like tickling and have no effect at all. If it weren't for the ultimate defense brought by vibranium, how could the 7 of them not be able to take down Chaka alone? Even if they wanted to lock Chaka, like they did with Red Skull, it would not work in front of his slippery body. As a master of fighting, he was most wary of such locking techniques. After all, it's because of lack of skills. Last time, I only caught Red Skull off guard. If I can use joint techniques skillfully, Vibranium can't absorb this kind of kinetic energy. But don't worry, the main body already has a countermeasure plan, and we will definitely be able to deal with him before the army arrives. The first generation Gori Sidon joined the battle with X-Gori. It's also good to weaken Chaka as much as possible before Gori's main body takes action. Haha, they have already started their futile struggle. The members of the Elders Tribal Council were relieved, as if they had already won. It was not until a while later that the 8th Kamen Rider G3X rushed to the battlefield from the periphery, and the elders raised their eyebrows in surprise. Another one is here to die. Didn't you see that 7 people couldn't defeat His Majesty? What if there is one more? It seems that the invaders are absolutely at their wits' end, so they resorted to this last resort. The 8th Kamen Rider G3X, who was the latest clone separated by Gao Li, shouted on the spot, "Tigger, come." Chaka snorted when he heard this. He had the same idea as the elders, and one more person would not have any impact on the battle situation. After kicking 7 Gao Li away, he faced Tigger Gao Li head on, and was about to use his superb martial arts to hit his vital points. However, as soon as Chaka made a move, his eyes suddenly blurred, and when he came to his senses, he was thrown out in an instant. What? Chaka in midair was still in a dream, and none of the elders watching the battle could react. What just happened? Exclamation mark. How come the new guy suddenly became a peerless master? Question mark. Oh, is this the complete G3X with full power AI? The rest of the Gori were all amazed. Thanks to Wakanda's advanced facilities and equipment, the epoch-making AI chip was finally manufactured. Yes, you have been fighting for so long to collect data. Tigger Gori smiled. In fact, after finding it difficult to hurt Chaka, the 7 Gori present received instructions and began to slack off. Prolonging the battle rhythm will help the Gori collect move data through the G3X armor and feed it to the AI to generate a counter-movement routine. In Captain America 3, after Tony was beaten up by Steve for a while, he relied on this method to kill Steve. Then we'll leave 2 of us to assist you in the battle, and the rest of us will go carry the equipment. The first generation of Gori gave a command. Chaka had just been thrown into the next room by Tigger Gori, and could no longer hinder their actions. Tigger Gori, Dinah Gori, and Jaya Gori immediately took the order, and went straight to the next room to find Chaka. On the other side, after Chaka got up, he stared at the Heisei 3 heroes in front of him vigilantly. He didn't know whether it was a coincidence or a martial arts crush, but in short, the enemies who should be killed will not change. It's obvious that 7 people can't match me, and now there are only 3 people. How arrogant. You will pay the price for your arrogance. Chaka roared and rushed over. Facing the Black Panther rushing in front of him, Tigger Gori seemed to have suddenly changed. Tigger Gori, as if he had practiced with Chaka countless times, dodged Chaka's attack with a perfect sidestep and kicked him in the abdomen at the same time. Chaka did not hesitate and raised his knee to block. However, Gori seemed to have guessed this response in advance. Before Chaka raised his leg, Gori changed his offensive and raised his palm to smash down. Chaka was unable to react and was slapped to the ground by Gori, making a muffled groan. How is this possible? The elders exclaimed in unison. This time, there was no doubt that Chaka was crushed in terms of skills. The enemy still has such a master? Is it their leader? Chaka was also secretly shocked. He rolled away and stood up, looking at Tigger Gori in doubt. Tigger Gori put his left hand behind his back like a hermit and waved his right hand at Chaka. Come here, don't look down on me. Chaka attacked again in anger, but that was only on the surface. In his heart, he was already on high alert. This time, you must be careful and pay attention to the enemy's moves. Then, crack. With the help of Dinah Gori and Gia Gori, Tigger Gori easily locked Chaka's arm and twisted it back with force. Chaka couldn't help but scream on the spot, and his left arm was already at a weird angle. Ah, you bastard. Chaka cursed while forcing himself to break free and attacking Gori with all his strength. but Gory seemed to have been tempered by thousands of times, and he executed all the AI instructions meticulously and perfectly, and every move hit Chaka's most uncomfortable place. This made Chaka's fight very difficult, and he was extremely frustrated. He was hit by 2 punches from Gory and Dinagori without noticing. The worst thing was that his legs and feet tightened, and he was obviously hit by Tigagori's joint skills again. It's over. Chaka was horrified. I'm going to be crack. PS. Thank you for the 200-point reward. Thank you for the 300-point reward. Thanks to bookfriend 202210250114131559 for the 300-point reward. Chapter 74. 10 seconds War God. Acceleration mode. Soon, all the bones of Chaka's limbs were broken, and he was in a strange twisted posture. He was like he had been raped. His eyes were dull and his mouth was drooling, and he lay on the ground and twitched from time to time. Your Majesty actually lost. The elders were in an uproar and panicked. What should we do? Exclamation mark. Don't panic. The army has surrounded the institute. They have nowhere to escape, the elders said with fear, and as soon as he finished speaking, he saw Gao Li stepped on the camera, and they had no more pictures. A few minutes later, the army that broke into the institute sent back a battle report. Except for the seriously injured and unconscious Majesty, Dora's personal guards and the guards, there was no one in the institute. Those intruders seemed to disappear out of thin air, and with them disappeared a large number of Wakanda's high-tech instruments and equipment. The elders were immediately like bereaved, and they couldn't understand what was going on. How did the enemy transport so many facilities and equipment quietly? How could they disappear directly under the siege of the army? I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. Fortunately, they are not completely clueless about the identity of the invaders. Under Chaka's brave fighting, the visors of several gory clones were torn and shredded, revealing several German faces. Of course, this was also intentional by Gory, but it was the only clue for Wakanda. After comparing the cloud database, these people were all senior German military officials, and they all had the background of joining Hydra. Logically, it is difficult for any other organization to instigate so many senior officials to go deep into danger and take risks just to frame Hydra. Looking at the laser gun that attacked Chaka, it is also a special technology unique to Hydra. What's more, Wakanda's anger needs to be vented after all. Therefore, that night, Wakanda's internal meeting passed unanimously declaring war on Hydra. When Wakanda fell into chaos, Gory had already left with satisfaction. After his repairs, the armored vehicle was able to run again, and the corpses were kicked to the warehouse for composting. Then Gao Li let the clones turn into Hydra soldiers, and there were a few black test subjects, so he could go back to report to the Red Skull. But then again, judging from the current situation, I can go to the United States directly with my main body and let the clones go back to Hydra. Gao Li thought for a while. After all, he was not sure to get the cosmic cube for the time being, so he needed to take it slowly. Although Kamen Rider G3X has been enhanced to an epic level, after being blessed by AI, it is only a special attack against skill-type enemies. If facing tanks and airplanes, it is still powerless. While thinking, a new system prompt popped up with the end of the internal meeting of Wakanda. Brand new reward, or SS level. I didn't expect that the influence accumulated during this period has been so high. Gao Li was slightly stunned, and then guessed the reason. Maybe Wakanda has decided to take action against Hydra, and he has greatly changed the course of world history. Coupled with Gao Li's experience in Hydra and the continued efforts of the World Tree Consortium, he finally reached the SS level. Gao Li didn't say anything else, and started drawing directly. Soon, the result of the draw appeared in front of Gao Li. He looked at it carefully, and his breathing suddenly became extremely rapid. Kamen Rider Faiz accelerated memory development information. Kamen Rider Faiz's accelerated form. Gao Li's eyes lit up, and he looked at the information in his hand, as if he had found a treasure. You know, after starting the acceleration mode, Kamen Rider Faiz can reach a super speed of 0.0058 seconds for 100 meters. Even the speed of sound takes 0.294 seconds to run 100 meters. After acceleration, Faiz can reach 50 times the speed of sound. Who can be the enemy in this era? Now it's okay. I already have the capital to fight against the army. Gao Li muttered to himself. His eyes gradually firmed up. The cosmic cube, I'm sure. Gao Li took the soldiers disguised as clones back to Hydra to report, and the Red Skull was very relieved that he didn't do anything weird. There are not many subordinates who are so worry-free. Although according to Gao Li's description, they were attacked by the local armed forces, resulting in the loss of half of the team, but this is no big deal for Red Skull. The lives of grassroots fish are not worth anything in his eyes. The rest is to wait for the soldiers to submit reports to see what Ryojido has done during this period. Unfortunately, on the second day, Red Skull did not wait for the report, but waited for bad news. There was a hidden time bomb that exploded in the soldiers' dormitory area, and the number of casualties reached hundreds. Among them were the Hydra soldiers who followed Ryojido on the mission, which made Red Skull extremely angry. It must be Big Shocker. Big Shocker again. Now no matter what bad things happen to Hydra, Red Skull subconsciously thinks that it must be Big Shocker's doing. He did not suspect that it was related to Ryojido. After all, if Ryojido really had something fishy, the soldiers would have reported it on the same day. As for the black experimental subject disguised as a replica, the Red Skull did not ask at all. After all, a leader of an organization would not care about the amount of mice used by his scientists. In this way, Gao Li happily plundered the resources of Hydra for more than 2 months. During this period, he repaired all the damaged G3X armors, and also started to develop and manufacture the Kamen Rider Faiz system and acceleration device, and simultaneously analyze the desired drive and core ID. Although there are so many projects at the same time, thanks to the fact that Wakanda's technological level is really good and the automation is also good, Gao Li did not spend much energy. There are many difficulties in completing the accelerated form of Kamen Rider Faiz. First, the program must be reprogrammed and optimized to adapt to the accelerated mode, and then a medium device that can stably supply photon blood to the whole body must be manufactured. Speaking of photon blood, it is the top priority of the accelerated form. Gao Li needs to increase the output of photon blood, and then it will deteriorate due to high power, upgrading from red photon blood to silver photon blood. This is a dangerous technical job. If you are not careful, it may cause a big explosion. The surrounding area of several kilometers will be polluted by degraded photon blood, as if it had been bombed by a nuclear bomb. To this end, Gao Li needs to develop a new generation of forced reaction amplifiers to amplify photon blood and ensure the energy required for acceleration, while coordinating the management of acceleration memory to prevent self-collapse due to excessive power. In addition, the cooling system and stable control mechanism are indispensable, and with the specially designed heat dissipation structure so far, the accelerated form of Kamen Rider Faiz is officially completed. The rest is leaving a backhand. Gao Li is used to making more preparations. Since a Big Shocker was created in Hydra to stir up trouble, he will naturally not give up the results of his efforts during this period. Therefore, Gao Li took the time to build a sturdy box the size of a human head and attached a large number of high-tech means of isolation detection and cracking. He named it Shocker's Secret Box. In order to ensure that only he can open it, Gao Li even transplanted the detection and startup device of the Faiz system into it. With the in-depth study of Kamen Rider Faiz, Gao Li became more aware of its relationship with the Orphino factor. The entire Kamen Rider system of this series was designed based on the basic conditions used by the Orphino tribe, so the Orphino factor is essential to the Faiz system. Just like a pure electric car cannot run on gas, the foundation of the Faiz system lies in the Orphino factor, unless Gao Li overturns the entire system and starts over. But even if there is any result, it will be a new Kamen Rider system that has nothing to do with the Faiz series. I'm the only one in the world who knows that what is needed to open its authentication is not the iris, fingerprint, or voiceprint, but the Orphino factor. If someone else were to crack it, they wouldn't even know what to input, so naturally they wouldn't be able to start. And looking at the entire universe, only I can prepare a transformation. Gao Li was very satisfied with this work. Through the members of the Great Shocker disguised as clones, He quietly circulated the shocker box and left a prophecy. The only one who can open the shocker box is the founder of the Great Shocker, the mysterious Grand Master of the Most Holy and the Most Wise, and the leader of the Great Shocker destined by destiny. Hydra is an organization that is close to religion and tends to be a cult pyramid scheme. The Great Shocker developed from it is even better in terms of ideological brainwashing. This kind of people often have a fanatical belief in the organization's beliefs and prophecies that is difficult for outsiders to understand. In other words, it is faith. That's right. In the few months since Gao joined Hydra, the Great Shocker organization lurking in it has grown from nothing to something, from fake to real, and has really absorbed many former Hydra members to establish it. In addition to benefiting from Gao's previous large number of operations, one of the important reasons why Wakanda began to stare at Hydra's pursuit and interception is also one of the important reasons. The originally glorious identity of Hydra has now become a label of death, and it has been caught and beaten to death by the mysterious high-tech forces that came from nowhere. This caused Hydra to be beaten more and more sluggish, and people's hearts became more unstable, so Great Shocker took advantage of the opportunity to enter. Everything was ready, and Gao took a deep breath. The final battle of Hydra was about to start. Since this time he was carrying the cosmic cube directly and forcing it out, it was meaningless for the main body to stay here. Instead, it might be ordered to be purged by the furious head of state after success. Therefore, Gao decided to go into battle himself. After the last incident, the cosmic cube was transferred to a more confidential place in the headquarters by the Red Skull, but this was not difficult for Gao at all. After all, the force field spread by the cosmic cube, after being activated, will not change. You can still use the connection magic to test and quickly find the target. Standing by, Gao Li held Faiz's mobile phone in his hand, as if he had returned to the moment a year and a half ago, and inserted the mobile phone into his belt with force. Transform. Complete. The dazzling red light illuminated the room, and the Kamen Rider Faiz, who transcended the times, made a grand appearance. Family, let's go. Gao Li shook his hand and led the charge in front. He led 8 copies of Gao Li wearing Kamen Rider G3X and marched to the location of the cosmic cube. The journey was unexpectedly smooth, and he only encountered a few guards who were knocked out without even having a chance to react. Until they got close to a certain range, the Hydra base suddenly sounded an alarm. In the broadcast, the Red Skull's triumphant voice was also heard. Big shockers, bastards. I have long guessed that you will not easily give up your spying on the cosmic cube. I really expected it. So I specially installed a range warning device, and only I can enter safely, waiting for you to fall into the trap. Facing the Red Skull's wild laughter, Gao Li shrugged and continued to move forward. He never thought that he could not alert the Hydra throughout the whole process. If he was discovered, he was discovered. As long as I kill all those who discovered me and hindered me, it would be a perfect stealth. However, Gao Li had not taken a few steps. The surrounding walls and ceilings made a rumbling sound and suddenly began to converge and descend. Gao Li was slightly startled. Good guy, Red Skull actually did such a big project in my base behind my back. It seems that I was obsessed with creating an accelerated form some time ago, and I stayed in the laboratory and pretended to be innocent, which gave the despicable outsider Red Skull an opportunity to take advantage of me. After the building sank to the bottom, a large number of Hydra soldiers rushed out, and there were also heavy weapons vaguely visible in the distance. However, Gao was still not in a hurry. It would take some time to mobilize troops. Even if traps were set in advance, it would be impossible to teleport all the tanks and planes. Therefore, Gao chose to break through the defense of the cosmic cube first. Although the room was also sunk underground for protection, it was not a problem for him at all. Exceed charge. Gao jumped up and kicked down with a deep red electric drill. The amazing penetrating power allowed him to drill through the ceiling directly. The cosmic cube was within reach, emitting an attractive deep blue light. The replicas of Gao who stayed above were also blocked inside by the outer encirclement, with no way to go up to the sky and no way to go down to the ground. Ha ha ha. Since the last time, I have been thinking about revenge day and night. The Red Skull jumped off the helicopter and landed gracefully on the ground with a look of confidence on his face. In his opinion, to eliminate the remnants of the Great Shocker who were surrounded by heavy firepower. It was like catching a turtle in a jar and taking something out of a bag. Facing such a large number of machine guns and cannons, even a Superman would not be able to escape unscathed. Although the G3X armor is very strong in single combat, it is not suitable for dealing with this kind of situation. Is this task allocation a bit unreasonable? The replicas looked around with their backs to each other, alert to tanks and planes, and shouted loudly to the bottom. Gao Li did not expect to face such a luxurious and terrifying Linoop right at the beginning, so he could only sigh and jump to the ground again. There is no other way. Then you go to shut down the device and take away the magic cube and leave it to me above. Seeing 8 blue armored men jumping down to the ground, replaced by a silver armored man, Red Skull couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. What the hell is Great Shocker doing? Is he trying to deal with his entire army with just one person? Even Red Skull himself thinks this idea is ridiculous. It is definitely a suicide act. At this moment, he saw Gao Li leisurely put on a watch and raised his middle finger at them. I'll finish you off in 10 seconds. P.S. I've created a questions group. Group number 673,414,839. If you're interested, you can join it. Chapter 75 The Collapsed Red Skull. 10 seconds. Red Skull laughed, as if he had heard a great joke. It seemed that this Great Shocker was at the end of his rope, so he could even say such crazy things. I really overestimated you, Great Shocker. Just surrender. You have no chance of winning. Not only Red Skull, but all the pilots of the planes and tanks around him felt nameless anger and a hint of contempt when they heard this. They were angry at being underestimated, and they were contemptuous of the enemy's insanity. Gao Li looked at them indifferently, as if he was staring at a group of dead people. The corpse was laughing. Complete. As the mechanical voice sounded, the armor all over Gao Li's body was changing. The chest armor split open to facilitate heat dissipation. His eyes turned red, and the photon blood that originally flowed throughout his body began to flash with silver light. Red Skull stopped laughing and looked at the scene in astonishment. For some reason, his eternal spirit conveyed an extremely terrifying warning. This sense of crisis was unprecedented, and the Red Skull had never experienced such a terrible feeling. His back was cold, his knees were shaking, and he was sweating all over. He couldn't stop his body's instinctive reaction. It was as if his sixth sense was telling him that no matter how he resisted the enemy in front of him, he would never survive. But how is this possible? The Red Skull muttered to himself in disbelief. He obviously had an absolute advantage. Start up. At this moment, Gao Li had already pressed the accelerator. In an instant, he disappeared from the spot. What? The Red Skull was stunned, and soon he found out that it was not that the enemy disappeared, but that the enemy was too fast. I saw a blood red light drill appear on a tank, and then the second blood red light drill aimed at the helicopter from bottom to top, and then the third. In the blink of an eye, more than a dozen blood red light drills suddenly appeared. Almost every tank and plane had a share. Gao Li's loud shout seemed to come from the void. The next second, a dozen blood red light drills seemed to have human figures flashing through them, piercing through the tanks and planes on the spot. Boom. 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 The sky-high flames exploded one after another. Especially because of this encirclement formation, the shock wave completely covered the entire inner circle, causing all the Hydra infantry to be blown away with screams. Some people fell into a coma in the air, some fell to the ground with broken bones, and some were hit by flying stones and their faces were covered with blood. Even a super soldier like Red Skull was blown over several times by the spreading blast wind, and only then did he barely stop by holding the ground with great force. However, Red Skull was lying on the ground, still unable to believe the scene in front of him. He felt that his brain could not react at all. Impossible. What is that? What the hell is that? Red Skull roared out of control, and even the tone was distorted. In a blink of an eye, the army he sent to encircle and suppress was completely wiped out. Time out. After the Hydra army was wiped out, the countdown of the acceleration mode ended, and Gory reappeared. because the power of the acceleration mode is too high. After transforming into the acceleration mode for 35 seconds, or starting the acceleration mode for 10 seconds, the transformation of this form must be cancelled. Otherwise, Faiz's own system will collapse irreversibly, and the wearer will be drowned by a large amount of photon blood and explode. Reformation. The acceleration mode changed back to the normal mode again. Gory stood in place and twisted his neck. He had never tried such a high-speed movement. It was too fast. The clones didn't even have time to cancel the activation device of the cosmic cube, and the Hydra's encirclement was completely destroyed and collapsed. Asshole, look at what you did. The Red Skull stood up out of control, thinking only of killing the damn silver armored man. Seeing the silver armored man return to his original appearance, it is obvious that the terrifying speed also has its usage limit. Red Skull quickly deduced that the enemy should not be able to open it again in a short time. Then from the experience last time, the armored men of Dashoka are far inferior to him in terms of fighting skills. Speed is not a big deal, but their strength is much worse than his. As long as you get close to him, you can win. Red Skull's mind was racing, and his body was already rushing towards Gao Li. Anyway, even if he died, he could be resurrected. It doesn't matter if he exchanges his life with the enemy. This is an advantage that Dashoka absolutely does not have. It must be said that Red Skull's judgment was half right. The reason why Gao Li didn't reward him with the Crimson Electric Drill just now was because the time for the acceleration mode was almost not enough. In Gao Li's view, the threat of tanks and planes is much greater than that of Red Skull, so in the limited acceleration time, the army should be dealt with first. Come on. Gao Li took a starting stance and rolled over and fought with Red Skull. As soon as they fought, Red Skull was shocked to find that the silver armored man was so strong. His fighting skills are not inferior to his. Just as Red Skull felt, it is not Gao Li himself who is fighting with him, but AI who is giving instructions. How can Gao Li, who has both Kamen Rider G3X and Kamen Rider Faiz technology, limit his advantage to just one Kamen Rider? The AI chip of G3X armor does not rely on other parts of Kamen Rider G3X, which means that it has the possibility of transplantation. Gao Li has accumulated a lot of knowledge in technology at present. He carried out the transplantation work while making the Kamen Rider Faiz system. He changed the operating platform and switched to photon blood power supply. After a lot of processing, this terrifying AI computing power also shines on Kamen Rider Faiz. Since Red Skull's fighting data has not been collected, AI cannot crush Red Skull like it crushed Black Panther for the time being, but it is just not targeted. Just relying on the combat instructions given by AI itself, Gao Li is enough to show the superb level of a fighting master, and even make up for the defect that Kamen Rider Faiz is not as strong as Red Skull. Don't panic, brother, we are here. 3 G3X armors jumped out of the big hole that was blown up. They were the 3 heroes of the Heisei era who beat up Black Panther that day. There are not as many as 8 operating tables below, and they don't need so many Gao Li to handle them together. Naturally, it is better to free up a few people to help repair Red Skull. Their every move is naturally blessed by AI, which is equivalent to adding 3 more masters, and immediately beat Red Skull like a bull. As the saying goes, 2 fists can't beat 4 hands, and random punches can kill a master, let alone 4 martial arts masters working together to beat one person. Even if Red Skull has the amplification blessing of mechanical prosthesis, it won't take long for his nose and face to be swollen, and his front teeth and nosebleeds will fly everywhere. Bang! A heavy punch from Gory made Red Skull kneel on the ground, holding his stomach, but Gory's heavy kick came towards him, kicking him in the face mercilessly. Red Skull was kicked backwards and could not get up again. He could feel that there was no part of his body that was not drowned in severe pain, and he didn't even know how many bones were broken. It's time to give the last blow. I hope he won't come back to life this time. Gory was about to charge his ultimate move, and the remaining Gory jumped up together with a huge base, and the cosmic cube was loaded in the center of the base. What the hell are you doing? Gory was a little surprised, and the clones complained in unison. John Schmidt replaced the locking device. The bastard has learned his lesson. It can be cracked, but it takes too much time, so we just dismantled the entire base. It's a bit big, but not too heavy. We'll slowly unlock it after we take it back. Gao Li shook his head helplessly and kicked the red skull on the ground again in displeasure. Damn it, you're causing me trouble when you're about to die. The red skull's throat was bloody and he let out a cold laugh like asthma. Heh, cough cough, ha 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 ha. You'll soon find out that it's more than just trouble. What do you mean? Gao Li raised his eyebrows and saw a mocking look on the red skull's face. Although I haven't actually tested it, because I'm afraid it will make too much noise. According to simulations, it can cover a 1 kilometer radius. You can't escape anyway. So I'll be merciful and tell you. This device is equipped with a timing system. Once it's set time and I haven't released it, it will switch to the explosion triggering mode, turning the cosmic cube into the most dangerous bomb in the world. The red skull said with great satisfaction. He wanted to let these shocker bastards know the truth, and then taste the ultimate despair of facing death, but nowhere to escape. As he expected, Gao Li's pupils suddenly shrank, and he took out the victory hyper gun and shot at the cosmic cube without thinking. Because the cosmic cube was specially targeted, the permanent magazine in the victory hyper gun is a barrier bullet, which can have a miraculous effect on the energy of the cosmic cube. Having said that, the barrier bullet has the same effect as a shield, which can only block frontal shooting, but cannot block the pervasive explosion. However, if it hits the cosmic cube, it can cover it completely like a cover. However, can a barrier withstand a super explosion with a radius of 1 kilometer? Even if you think about it, you know it's impossible, but Gao Li can only try to use this method to ease the power. Boom. Almost at the moment, when Gao Li finished taking countermeasures, the cosmic cube was violently stimulated and suddenly exploded with extremely terrifying blue energy waves. The red skull was fearless. The reason why he dared to make such a plan was because he could die and resurrect, so it was a good deal to die with Dashoka. Ha. Die. The first moment after the red skull roared, he realized that something was wrong. Wait, why didn't the cosmic cube explode as calculated? Otherwise, it would have been completely submerged by the explosion as early as when he uttered the first syllable. What's going on? He looked at the cosmic cube in shock and saw that after the cosmic cube exploded with energy waves, it began to shrink violently inwards, and even the barrier was not opened. However, soon, this contraction produced an extremely terrifying huge suction force, which seemed to sweep everything around it in. Even though they had studied the cosmic cube for a long time, Hydra had only managed to turn its weapons into energy, and still had not been able to understand that its core was the space stone. Why? This? The red skull was horrified, but he was powerless to resist, and was the first to fly into the air, and was sucked into the cosmic cube. Oops. Gao Li was also sweating profusely. Facing the suction of the cosmic cube, even if he lowered his center of gravity, it would still be useless, and he would still be forcibly pulled over. Should I use the cosmic street slide? Gao Li instantly thought of a countermeasure, but immediately rejected it. Just like the time with the giant beast, the cosmic street slide would definitely be affected by the space stone and slide towards the center of the space stone at the level of the spatial dimension. Then how about using the endless form? But this is not a magic attack, it cannot be immune, and it still can't stop me from being sucked into it. As a last resort, Gao Li could only think of another plan. He immediately disbanded all the copy magic and detonated all the G3X armor. The explosion will produce shockwaves. Gao Li wants to try to escape with the help of the thrust of the strong wind. Boom. 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 The G3X armor exploded one after another. The good news is that they did produce the impact force that Gao Li expected, but the bad news is, in the face of the cosmic cube's rapidly increasing suction, even the flames of the explosion were sucked away the moment they were produced, and did not affect Gao Li at all. The next moment, the suction of the cosmic cube suddenly soared, and Gao Li was forcibly sucked into it before he could react. At the same time, the cosmic cube disappeared. When the place returned to calm, looking back at the original place, a large hole like a meteorite crater had been sucked out by the cosmic cube. In the vast universe, a silver Kamen Rider suddenly appeared, floating in the vacuum, and it was Gao Li. I didn't expect to be teleported to outer space. Where is this place? Gao Li barely calmed down and began to look around. It seemed that the surroundings were an asteroid belt, and there were no familiar planets in sight. Fortunately, Kamen Rider Faiz's helmet has a built-in device called Extreme Regulator that can provide oxygen to the wearer, allowing him to move in harsh environments with extreme oxygen deficiency such as water or toxic gases. Coupled with the protection of Faiz's armor itself, Gao Li was able to survive in the space environment temporarily. But after all, it is not a professional aerospace equipment, and Gao Li is not sure how long it can last. There is no other way. Let's take a gamble. Gao Li gritted his teeth and activated the ability of Space Street Slicker. With a flash of light, Gao Li disappeared again. When he reappeared, he changed to a completely different space. The surroundings just changed from one strangeness to another strangeness. Gao Li was speechless. This Gao-based skill is really random in the entire universe. It is impossible to use it to return to Earth. The connection magic circle can connect to the Earth, but it can't let me pass through as a whole. What should I do? Gao Li had a headache. Even if it's the endless style, it doesn't have the ability to deal with such a situation. Just as Gao Li was thinking hard, a slow cruising spaceship flew out from behind the asteroid and hit Gao Li against the bow glass as soon as it turned. What the hell is that? Gao Li climbed on the glass and saw a young raccoon inside, frantically looking for the button of the cleaning brush. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.